Welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides today as we deep dive Joel Schumacher's 1987 cult classic teen vampire movie, The Lost Boys.
Yeah, this movie is always something that has had a spot in my heart. I love vampire movies, and I enjoyed this when I was a kid. And looking back at some of the facts about it, this was actually a wildly successful movie. It made a lot of money, and it had really high critical acclaim. It spawned 2 sequels, a comic, and a TV series.
Yeah, the sequels come much later, though. They're like direct to DVD.
Yeah, they're spiritual. No, they're just treading on IP that was valuable. But I mean, in the 80s, spending $8.5 million on a movie and then grossing over $32 million, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, it was like you said, a very successful movie, and it was kind of the second big success of Joel Schumacher's career. It's interesting looking back because in the geek or fan community or whatever, he started to become kind of a persona non grata after the Batman movies. And I've been reevaluating the legacy of Joel Schumacher.
I think part of the success of this movie was in the 80s, there was there was a lot of popularity around the Coreys, and they were teaming up in this movie.
Yeah, this is the first time both Coreys were together, and it kind of spawned a lifelong friendship with them.
Yeah, and I was wondering if this was kind of one of the things that put Kiefer Sutherland on the map. I'm sure he had done other things beforehand, but for me as a kid, this was one of the big ones.
Yeah, this was a big coming out moment for him too in his career. He had done, I'm forgetting what movie he had done before this. And of course, he's Donald Sutherland's son, so
sure,
he's a little bit of Hollywood royalty, and he had name recognition, but this really did kind of make a movie star out of him.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be deep diving into this week. But what have you been up to?
Oh, man, I haven't been up to a whole lot. The world is canceled right now as we're on pause. But on Black Friday, there was a kind of a deal on Marvel Unlimited subscriptions, so I resubscribed to that, and I've been kind of deep diving stuff that I want to do, like kind of big read throughs on, like following certain writers.
Okay.
But would be hundreds of dollars worth of comics to actually buy this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm a couple series into a chronological read through of all of Jonathan Hickman's comics that he's written.
Wow. So what are some of his big titles? I'm not really familiar.
He's done a few. So he did a Secret Warriors, which was a lot of the basis for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Okay.
And then he had a really influential run on Fantastic Four, and then followed that up with the Avengers. And he's basically like the showrunner for the whole X-Men line right now.
Okay.
And it's very like, he's a very like heady kind of hard sci-fi writer. So he's really laying out like breadcrumbs even in like 2009 and these early things he's writing that he's paying off now, 10 years later.
And he gives the reward for those long-term fans.
Yeah, I'm kind of the premise of this whole podcast, but I like to really examine the through lines on these things. And so there's certain writers that really do this. Everything is connected, and they've got a big picture planned out from the start. And I like, finding all those threads.
Yeah, I like that kind of thing too, but I'm not as much of a comic fan as you. But people like Jim Butcher, I'm 17 books deep in his series, and there are things that come up from, in book 17 that are references back to book 3 or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not always maybe on the first read through, or if you're reading the stuff as it comes out, maybe the stuff doesn't jump out at you.
Yeah.
I don't think, like Hickman, I don't think he's a great writer to read monthly installments. I think the stuff's a little too heady, and you kind of lose track of it waiting for the next issue to come out.
Yeah, it's like staring at individual puzzle pieces rather than a picture.
Totally, totally. Well, what about you? What have you been up to?
Well, like you said, the world's been pretty much canceled because of the whole pandemic thing. But so I've been at home like everyone else, and I've been doing mundane things like working and all that. But I've been also keeping up with my shows. I say, it's
Your stories?
Yeah, my stories. I've never really been like a shows kind of a guy. I usually like to binge things after a whole season's would come out, but now I look forward to Fridays so I can watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to go into that now because I actually would like to do a whole episode on that season 1 and 2 when they wrap.
Yeah, let's do a hot take on season 2 of Mando when it ends. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
You heard it here first. That's a new announcement.
Yeah, new announcement. I'm sure lots of people are really stoked right now. They're putting things on their calendars. Anyway, but the other show that I wanted to give a brief talk about, just because I don't think many people have watched it, is an anime.
Okay.
Yeah, this one was spawned from my wife because she's an anime fan, and she watches a lot of it, and she always finds things that she thinks I would like, and I'll watch a few episodes, and if she was right, we'll keep watching it, and if she wasn't right, I won't. And in this case, I did like it. It's called Jujutsu Kaisen. And it's on Crunchyroll, which is where we watch our animes, and it's kind of it's kind of a horror themed anime, mixed kind of with the school trope, which is pretty big in anime.
I'm trying to break down that name, Jujutsu Kaisen. So what is that? What's the translation of that title?
Well, I guess jujutsu is like a martial arts type deal or whatever. I honestly don't really know. But the Kaizen part is about their curses.
Oh, okay.
So these are there's a type of magic in the show that it's all curse based. And I'm gonna mess this up, and Carrie's gonna be like, "Well, actually," but basically the idea is these characters go to this school, and it focuses on this one kid, who's kind of the positive. He's a Gryffindor, if you will, and he's got a friend who's kind of a cool type. It's his roommate, and there's like a plucky girl who's kind of feisty. The tropes.
We've got all the Harry Potter characters.
Yeah, yeah, and you've got this show, and it's about this guy who there's these curses, and they're cursed spirits out in the world, and they're doing bad things, and there's this really, really gnarly ancient spirit that was dismembered, actually. And so parts of his body are left around the world, and they cause these crazy, or around Japan, I should say. They're left around and bad things happen. And this main character, he actually consumes part of the body. And so he's possessed by a shard of this really gnarly demon. Or I guess it's a cursed spirit, not a demon. Anyway, the show is really cool if you like dark, action-packed, kind of horror anime with a cool main character and lots of fun side characters. Like his teachers are really cool. It kind of reminds me of like if it was going to be like a horror-themed My Hero Academia.
Okay.
And so you've got your Deku main character, and he's got the whole cast, and so it's a very anime tropey show, but I'm really digging it.
Oh, cool.
And so that's what I've been into, and I heard that the latest season of Attack on Titan has come out, and I haven't watched that, but that's on the menu.
I haven't watched the previous season of Attack on Titan. In the long gap, I kind of lost track of that show.
Well, I guess season 4 is out, and that's going to be the last season. Okay. So it's worth just finishing it off.
Yeah, they're not long seasons.
No, and it's good, and it kind of goes off the rails and goes a little nuts at a certain point. But if it's a 4-season show for anime, I can pretty much just squash that and watch the whole thing.
Yeah. It's there's so much competition for our streams right now, and you just kind of lose track of some of these shows if there's a long gap or whatever.
For sure. Like I've been waiting on Rick and Morty forever, and that's not out yet. And but it's coming. Another show that's just coming out this month that I just actually watched the trailer for this morning is the next season of Letterkenny.
See, I've lost track on Letterkenny too.
I'm totally caught up on Letterkenny, and it's still worth watching. It's all good.
There are no bad seasons. Those shows, I mean, I enjoy it and I enjoy the characters, but there's diminishing returns for me on the jokes.
Yeah, the jokes wear a little thin, but I think they find a way in Letterkenny in order to make it funny, like the two, and evolve the characters a bit. And I think that the authors and the actors are pretty thoughtful about the way things develop. So yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I'm gonna watch the new season when it comes out.
You mentioned Rick and Morty, and that takes me back to when I was talking about Jonathan Hickman, because I just started in on his Fantastic Four run, and right from the start, he discovered the Council of Reeds, and so it's all the Reed Richards from across the multiverse.
Oh, it's like the Ricks.
Yeah, 5 years before. So it's the Council of Reeds is where the Ricks get their steeds from, not the other way around.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, let's be real. Fantastic Four is not that interesting of a comic.
It is when Jonathan Hickman writes it.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm just biased because all I remember is kind of an old school Fantastic Four, which is interesting because I didn't even understand the influence of that comic until I had spoke to Carrie about it. How the Invisible Woman was a scientist woman who was a superhero, and that was kind of someone she looked up to as a kid. And to me, having the whole identity politics thing, every superhero kind of looks like me, like a white guy. So right. I never really thought anything
you
of
have
it.
You have a smorgasbord of male role models.
So yeah, that is an interesting thing to consider, is that representation, it does matter, and that I took it for granted my whole life, honestly.
Oh, for sure. And you can see she's a character that's really evolved over the years because you read those early, like 1961, I think is when the Fantastic Four came out. And I mean, Stan Lee just has no idea how to write a compelling female character. She's like making tea and doing the dishes for the rest of the team. And she's really developed to, almost co-leader of the team, essentially.
Yeah, so I guess maybe I won't trash on that comic. To me, it's not super interesting because I prefer my comics to be a lot more edgelordy, like anything grim.
Like The Boys and yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, we'll get way off track, but I inherited all your comic books.
Yeah,
because you moved,
and I just decided to stop lugging them around.
Yeah, and so they've all been incorporated into mine. So I got to really kind of go through adolescent Dave's like taste and stuff. It was pretty interesting. You had some interesting stuff in there, and stuff I didn't have. Like you had a pretty solid run on Preacher.
Oh yeah,
and I really I didn't have much of that.
I had that in my box for a long time.
Yeah, and you have a really impressive run of Poison Elves.
Yeah. Also, I made a concerted effort to collect that comic as a young man.
Yeah. So you've enriched my collection, and then there was some several duplicates, more than I expected. Like you had that whole Heroes Reborn run of Iron Man, and so now I've got. And sometimes you double bought issues, so now I've got 3 of some of those comics.
Man. Well, I guess that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's not a shameful collection.
Oh no, it was pretty cool.
All right, so we both had our drinks in our hand at the same time just then. So let's move on to podcast fuel. So what are we drinking?
Trying to keep with the theme, the Lost Boys theme, I am starting us out with a blood orange cider from Incline Cider Company here in Portland, Oregon. Or no, sorry, they're from Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah, I was taking a drink of this, and I'm not a cider drinker. I pretty much never order it because I just like beer so much. But I love blood orange. Like when I saw the can, I thought it was going to be like a blood orange IPA, and I was like, yeah, give that to me. But a blood orange cider is pretty good.
It is. I kind of burn myself out on cider, so I'll do that. I'll go hard on something, and then never want it again because I've just ruined it. But I do enjoy a good cider, so I'll drop one in here now and again. And I think the Blood Orange adds a kind of a sour.
Yeah, it's kind of got a little bit of a bitter note to it.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm not sure if I would buy a sixer of this and just have it. But I might. It would just be a mood thing. It's definitely probably not above like drinking a nice IPA or a Kolsch for me. My more favored styles, but this is good.
Honestly, I usually get ciders when I'm like watching carbs and things like that.
Are they healthier for that?
Yeah, they can be a dry cider, not a sweet cider, obviously. That's kind of back sweetened with sugar. But a dry cider is pretty low carb.
You're not talking like an Angry Orchard.
Oh yeah, that's all. that's treetop plus a little malt liquor or something.
Yeah. They took a little Old E and dumped it in some apple juice.
Yeah.
That's not the thing. All right. Well, we will go ahead and take a break, and then we will come back and deep dive Lost Boys.
Welcome back, divers. Let's get into the Lost Boys, shall we?
Yeah, let's do this.
So this is something you've brought up a few times since we started the podcast of wanting to dive into this. So what's that background? You covered it a little bit in the opening, but
yeah. Well, I want to keep pushing my vampire agenda and see if I can sneak some more vampire movies in here. But really, I think that this movie, it covers really where I want to go with this podcast and what I want to do. It's a cult classic. It's kind of a subculture movie.
Yeah, it hits all three boxes.
Yeah, it's geeky. So this is kind of like the perfect thing. This is kind of like Dune. You know,
for sure.
It checks all three boxes. So when I was thinking about kind of our mission statement, this movie immediately popped to mind. So back in the day, I think I didn't see this until the early 90s, probably.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, because 1987, I was a kid.
Yeah, I guess.
I was what, 8? So now you know how old I am. So I probably wasn't watching this. I didn't go to many theaters at that age, and it would have been wasted on me anyway. So I definitely saw it in the 90s when I was a teenager. I probably just saw it on like HBO or something. I don't know. But I definitely watched this movie multiple times with friends. One of our buddies, Lance, who's a supporter of the podcast, he had a cool Kiefer Sutherland shirt.
I was there when he bought that at Another State of Mind.
That was a cool store, by the way.
That was or it's still around. They just moved.
Oh, did they? Because I drive by that every now and then, and I always wonder whatever happened to them.
Yeah, they're on the east side now.
Yeah, so for those of you not in the Portland area, it's a long running kind of underground punk rock store.
Yeah, punk rock, death rock.
Yeah, they've got some goth stuff in there.
It's very goth, a little metal, very horror stuff, like the Granny Fiendish, the proprietor, Karen something. I don't remember her last name. She's an old school death rocker.
Yeah, so they're a really cool store, and we used to go shopping there a lot when we were teenagers. Wouldn't often buy a lot because we didn't have a ton of money, but we would try.
Yeah, you at least buy pins or patches, right? Because it's like $1.
Buy the little 1 inch round pins for my leather jacket or whatever. But anyway, so I love this movie. I watched it multiple times with friends, and I felt like this was just in my pantheon of awesome things that I like. I really like vampire movies. I like all of the things about this, like them riding motorcycles on the beach and being just party boys and stuff. I just thought it was cool and in retrospect. And so I was excited to put this on the agenda.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't think I've sat down and watched this movie like all the way through since probably I was a middle schooler or younger.
Okay.
It was something that was often on cable, like you alluded to. So I've watched pieces of The Lost Boys Just I don't innumerable times, but I don't think I'd actually like watched the whole movie since I was like 12 or something like that, like pretty young. So I was a little surprised at how campy it is and how gay it is. Like none of that really registered to me as a little kid. I think I took it as a pretty serious horror movie.
Oh yeah, I definitely, when I was looking back on this through my rose-tinted glasses, I was thinking that this is a horror movie. This is a vampire movie. Mm-hmm. And now that I've seen it again recently, it's definitely very campy.
Yeah.
It's very 80s. It's not a serious horror movie at all.
No, and once I kind of locked into that, I appreciated it a lot more. Like I adjusted my I'm like, this is not, I don't know, The Hunger or like a more serious vampire movie from the time. It's like a modern I Was a Teenage Werewolf or something like that. It more harkens to that 1950s teensploitation movies.
Yeah, but it's definitely more serious than something like Teen Wolf.
Oh yeah. It's there's comedic elements, but it's not really a comedy.
Yeah, they're not trying to
camp.
be funny, but there's a lot of campiness, and today that translates into nostalgia.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna tangent too much on this, but I think we should view the Schumacher Batman movies through the same lens that we view this movie.
Just a little bit of camp.
Yeah, and not, kind of damn it for not being Christopher Nolan, because they're just entirely different kind of filmmakers.
So which ones did Schumacher do?
He did Batman Forever and then Batman and Robin, which is really the one that's kind of reviled.
I think both of those are trash.
But they're fun trash. I think we should look back on them with a little more of the rose-tinted glasses.
I think that maybe the best part about Batman Forever was the soundtrack. That Seal song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's still, that plays a lot into this movie, because there's even some repeaters. Because
I counted how many times they played that song.
Oh no, I meant Michael Hutchins of INXS is on the soundtrack to the Batman Forever.
Is he? Okay. Yeah. Well, in this movie they play the opening title song.
Cry Little Sister.
Yeah, they play it I think 6 times in the movie, or at least parts of it.
Yeah,
it comes back.
That's kind of
who did that song?
Oh shit.
So I should.
Yeah, let me circle back to it, because I've got the wrong thing pulled up on my phone.
So yeah, basically the idea is this movie starts off with this song, "Cry Little Sister," and it's really like anthemic, and it's kind of a big pan of the beach, like the 101 beach highway in California. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, looking over the Santa Cruz boardwalk.
And one of the things that really struck me was this is pre-drone footage. They had helicopters out there doing it.
Yeah, and they reused that helicopter nighttime helicopter shot like once or twice.
Yeah.
And you alluded to the budget earlier. There's some really frugal filmmaking going on, and I'll spotlight it kind of when I see it, because I think they really effectively used what they could afford.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that opening shot, and I take for granted the days of drone footage now where people just do it as a hobby. But I thought that opening big panorama shot was really good, and it was really additive.
So it's Gerard McMahon recorded "Cry Little Sister."
Okay, well, that's a one-hit wonder, I guess.
I think it's his biggest hit, and it's been covered quite a bit. He actually had it on his album called G Tom Mac.
That's quite a name.
Yeah, it's Gerard McMahon was fine. He had a little bit of identity crisis. He changed how he spelled his last name, and just never really could repeat the success of "Cry Little Sister," I guess.
I mean, it was a great song, and honestly,
it's been in my head all week long.
Yeah, when I was watching this movie and I saw this intro, and if we spend all this time, like on every single scene, we'll have a big problem. But
Yeah.
it'll be another hut. It'll be Thrall's birthing hut.
Cry Little Sister is your orc hut.
Yeah. But anyway, I really like that opening scene. And then I liked how it cut to the carousel with the vampires, and they're like walking through like this carnival boardwalk, and
Yeah.
they're clearly hunting.
Yeah, I said they're out Drugan. It reminded me of Clockwork Orange.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And they're introduced reverse order from the order that they die in.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we get David first, and we end with Marco, and like that's the opposite of how how they go out.
David and Marco are the best ones anyway.
Oh, for sure.
Alex Winter he's awesome.
He's a little bit of the try too hard kind of like younger brother of the gang.
Yeah, for sure. And of course David is the coolest one.
Yeah, I gotta take a minute to the other guy, like the two guys that we're not remembering their names.
Yeah.
Look like romance novel vampires.
Yeah, they look like the cover of a romance novel, like a guy with a leather jacket and no shirt.
Yeah, like if Fabio is a biker, this is how he looks.
Yeah, for sure.
But David, Kiefer Sutherland's character, who's the leader of the Lost Boys, is like just immaculately styled. He has the best punk mullet you've ever seen. He's
the thing is every time you see someone with a mullet now in the 2020s trying to be retro cool, they're not accomplishing a Kiefer Sutherland mullet, because if they were, I would say that it's rad because that's actually in my notes. He has a sick mullet.
He does. It's one of the best mullets just out there
of all time.
Yeah, it's up there. It's Kiefer Sutherland, David Bowie. I don't know who else rocked.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Billy Ray Cyrus. You have to give credit to Billy Ray Cyrus.
Take that away from him.
Yeah, there's some historical mullets. The Crocodile Hunter.
Yes. Yeah, there are some kind of pinnacle mullets, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look ironic or lame.
No, and he's got like we always talk about the Lost Boys punk rock vampires. Mm-hmm. It's really only him. Everyone else looks more like Sunset Strip metal of that era.
Yeah, they're just sort of dudes in like like jeans and a leather jacket, and they don't really, they look very California.
Yeah.
They're a trope of that California beach look, like the rocker thing. They don't look punk, but sort of but
David does.
Yeah, David looks punk. Like his jacket is very, like whoever did the costume design, they did a really good job there. Mm-hmm. So the next scene is one thing that, after the security guard throws them out. So,
they're beefing with their rival gang, which you see in the credits. They're called the Surf Nazis.
Wow.
And those guys don't get really any dialogue in the movie, and I guess they had more scenes, but that stuff's all been chopped. This is a lean movie. It's like an hour and 33 minutes.
And it shouldn't have been any longer than that.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's good.
We don't need the backstory of the Surf Nazis.
No, they're extra. They're just guys who get in a conflict. And so the security guard throws them out, tells them to get out. And then it kind of cuts to an actual kind of horror movie scene. And this reminds me very much of A Game of Thrones. Opening to the first novel. It is a monster prologue, and this is actually a trope in horror, like it's a Hitchcock-ish trope or whatever, where you introduce something terrible, but you don't explain it at all.
Yeah.
You give them a teaser of what's to come. Sort of like in A Game of Thrones, the very first scene, you don't meet the kids. The prologue is Benjen and like the Rangers. They're out in the woods and they meet a White Walker. And then, oh, sorry if you haven't watched the show or read the
Spoiler.
book.
We're going to also spoiler season 1 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so you meet a White Walker, and then it cuts to the mundane life of the kids in the castle.
Yeah.
So this is their monster prologue, where you have the vampires flying around that you never get to see.
Yeah, so
they're alluded to.
This is one of these first. I was talking about how they budget. They use their budget really well. They've got the helicopter flying over the pier, and they get these POV shots.
Yeah.
And so we get this shot flying over the pier and then onto the parking lot, and then you're following the security guard who broke up their little scuffle on the carousel.
Yeah.
Following him back to his car. Because they didn't have the budget to do the flying stuff.
Yeah, to have the guys actually on wires and stuff.
Yeah. And, and the technology's not really there to do it scarily.
Yeah.
And so I think this is really effective filmmaking on a shoestring.
Yeah, it leaves it to the imagination. It shows you enough to understand that these are flying vampires, but without seeing them, it leaves the mystery in there.
Yeah, and because it's from their point of view, you're building sympathy with the vampire. Like, they're your POV characters so far.
Yeah, for sure. You don't really like that lame security guard.
No,
like,
he's just hassling these cool kids.
yeah, I mean, why has he got to do that? So basically the scene ends and then it immediately cuts to the family. They're driving in the car and they're heading there. Mom just got a divorce from her husband or whatever, and so they're moving back in with her dad in California.
Santa Carla. Because Santa Cruz did not want the negative press of being the murder capital of the world.
Was it actually at the time?
Yeah, there was some problem with like serial killers or something. There was a lot of murders in the Santa Cruz kind of Monterey Bay area in that time period, and it was not something that the tourist board really wanted to promote.
And they were coming from Phoenix, and
yeah, they're driving the wrong way on the coast to be coming from Phoenix, but oh well.
Yeah, whatever. The thing that really kind of irritated me, and I guess I'll kind of come back to this over and over again, is Corey Haim.
Oh, really?
It's like, I mean, rest in peace. But I don't like his fashion. I don't like his dialogue. I think he overacts. Literally everything is way too try hard, and it's not believable.
Huh. Okay.
It's just one of those deals where it was like he's trying to steal every scene, but ultimately he just looks like a mediocre actor.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. So I don't know if you found this in your background research. Originally, the movie is executive produced by Dick Donner, who directed Superman and The Goonies, which kind of are his big tent poles. And it was originally going to skew much younger. And it kind of, when Dick Donner left to go and do actually the first Lethal Weapon movie, and Joel Schumacher stepped in, he aged everything up and made it a sexier movie than it was going to be, like Vampire Goonies.
Oh man, I think Schumacher made the right decision.
Oh, to leave?
Well, no, I mean to age it up.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Schumacher made the decision.
Yeah, sorry.
But I think basically in that opening scene, I like Jason Patric, the older brother, the kind of muscly dude with the motorcycle and everything. And it's kind of a travel montage where you kind of learn, you've got whiny brother, you've got tough guy brother, and you have tolerant mom.
Yeah. Ever suffering mom. She's obviously leaving a really bad relationship.
Yeah.
And this is alluded to a few times in the beginning that she didn't want to draw out the divorce. She just wanted to pack the kids up and leave.
And just bail.
And it's really, the brothers and the mom are all very close to each other. Like they're all, it's a traumatized family. Like they're having a good time, but there's a lot of like underlying stuff going on with them.
Yeah, and it was, and I think that the actress did a pretty good job in that role.
She's sort of unfortunately typecast in that, like dutiful mom. Like that's sort of her role in a bunch of movies, like Edward Scissorhands and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose her for this. I mean, dutiful mom, she did well, but she's also a love interest character in the show. Like she's dating and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she really doesn't, it's not realistic in my opinion. It's not that, anybody isn't going to be, have a love life or whatever. But if you're looking at who's going to be like the object of affection of a powerful, immortal being,
Well,
is
yeah.
it going to be dutiful mom?
Well, there's a reason for it, so we'll get to that
Yeah.
as we come to it. But
Okay, so they get to Dad's house and Grandpa's house.
Yeah.
Turns out he's a crazy taxidermy guy who's like a strange coot living all by himself. He's a widower.
yeah, it's a huge house. They use this polo lodge that's in a park there in Santa Cruz. That's sort of a defunct place that gets. It's not used for polo anymore, but it's
Sure.
often used for movie settings. And so Grandpa, somehow, as an old coot, has just a massive cabin in the Bay Area.
Yeah, like a $2 million house or whatever.
Everyone is extremely poor in this movie. It's kind of driven home, but they're sitting on a lot of real estate.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. It's like they've got this multi-million-dollar beachfront house on the bluffs overlooking everything.
Yeah.
But they're
Dirt poor.
She's looking for a part-time job so they can make ends meet. It's kind of silly. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're not meant to dig in. It's just a cool looking cabiny house that they could get for their budget.
Sure, yeah. And so I thought the house was really cool. I personally really like taxidermy stuff. I have a few pieces in my house, and I dig it.
Yeah.
So I like that. And then there was some weird dialogue in there, like when the grandpa's talking about the TV guide. He likes to read it, but he doesn't have a TV.
Yeah, that's just normal grandpa nonsense.
It's like, okay, you have 93 minutes to work with, and you wasted 2 of them on grandpa being a weirdo.
That's funny. Yeah, well, we established a lot about grandpa really quick, and a lot of, you don't like exposition and overdubs and everything.
That's
so
true.
we see grandpa's pot plants. We see his weird drawer in the refrigerator, and we just get
With his root beer.
his root beer and double stuffed Oreos. You don't touch grandpa's Oreos.
I'm not going to argue with the man because I think root beer and double stuffed Oreos are good.
Yeah, he's got his priorities.
So,
I
you're
like
right.
the grandpa.
I don't dislike him.
And I like Sam, too.
They showed him being a crazy kooky old guy rather than telling us. A narrator could have overdubbed it while they drived up the driveway.
Yeah.
And we arrived at our kooky old grandpa's house.
Or like mom could be telling them that as they drive there. Now remember, your grandpa is kooky.
Yeah, this was better. You're right. I can't have it both ways.
And I like the stuff with the brothers. Like I alluded to earlier, they're trauma bonded.
Sure.
And so like they're much closer than normally an older 17, 18-year-old brother and a 13, 14-year-old brother maybe would be.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I really liked Michael. I thought that character was really well acted. He did a solid job. So basically, the next scene is like
We're back to the boardwalk.
yeah, it's like there's this cool montage. The street, like the streets of this town are pretty cool. Like there's tons of punks and goths and counterculture people.
A lot of, so that was as they're coming into town. We get Echo and the Bunnymen's cover of People Are Strange by the Doors. And the Doors and Jim Morrison is really a kind of ghost that's hanging over this movie thematically.
Sure.
The Doors were really having a revival moment at that point in history. They actually sold more albums in the 80s than they did in the 60s.
Weird.
And so this was kind of actually peak Doors time when this movie's coming out.
That's actually an interesting piece of trivia. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, you get this cool montage of all these punks and cholos and goths. We did a little bit of that punk rock extraing back in the day.
Yeah.
So those people all got their craft services and $50 and
to hang out for a day. And so basically they go back to town, and then there's this concert.
oh man,
It's the Sax Man.
Tim Capello, sexy sax man, still tours to this day. Looks good too. He's still a oiled up Italian sex machine.
Still a beefcake.
Yeah, he's held up real nice, and he still plays that saxophone in a very sexual way.
That's great. I mean, good on him.
Yeah, this is one of the first when I said the movie earlier is very gay. This is like the first gay gaze sort of thing we get. We really linger on the sexy sack man.
Yeah, like he's singing and he's all oiled up and he's lit by firelight in front of him.
Yeah. Joel Schumacher's his interests are very clear.
Yeah, and I mean this scene, I have no idea why people were actually like headbanging to this song. Like they cut to the people and they're like sort of like softcore moshing and headbanging to this music, which is ultimately not headbangable or danceable at all.
Yeah, they're just being professional extras and they're acting as the directors told them. So this song, I still believe, is actually a cover from this band called The Call, who were Santa Cruz natives.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of like meta stuff going on there.
Did he add the sax in himself, or did it?
I don't know. I don't know the original. I can't imagine the original version is as sax heavy as it is when he does it.
Because it's pretty big.
Mm-hmm. And our teens are enjoying the concert. Sam a little more than Michael. Michael gets distracted because he sees our female lead Star show up.
Yeah, so there's this foxy lady there at the show, and he just is obsessed. He keeps staring. He's ultimately fairly rude.
Oh yeah, so that was,
and his brother's like, dude, what are you doing? Like Sam has the wits to basically tell him to stop staring.
Yeah, so Sam is like, what does he say? He said, I'm a slave to your hormones, man. Like he's resentful that his chaperone is like, I'm gonna drop everything and go hunt this girl. Yeah. I was watching this with Lisa and she'd never seen it before, and she was like, he's a creep. Like she had an immediate negative reaction to Michael.
Yeah, and so then it kind of cuts to the scene where the vampires are kind of cruising the boardwalk area, the shops, right?
Yeah,
Michael chases Star.
We cut over to Mom Lucy. She's out walking the boardwalk. She's not into Tim Capello. That's not her jam.
Wonder why? I mean,
I don't know.
He's a handsome man.
Yeah, she's got her mind elsewhere. She's looking for a new job, and she just can't help herself from momming. So she sees a little kid that's gotten separated from his mom, and she runs up to mother him, help him find his mom. And this gets noticed by Max, video store owner Max, in his very I've got too much money and not enough taste 80s outfit.
Yeah, man, I actually kind of feel like this was a miscast. I really didn't like this casting.
Oh, yeah.
Because first of all, the guy, I mean, not to be just totally a judgmental prick, but he's not a good-looking guy.
No, he's very normal.
He's unremarkable in the least. He is, I mean, the costumes are the costumes. The actor didn't choose those. But it's one of those deals where if you're getting, I mean, spoilers, probably if you're listening to this, you've either seen the movie or you don't care. But this is the master vampire.
Yeah, played by Edward Herrmann.
And this is the master vampire. It makes no sense. He's an ugly guy with bad fashion that runs a video store.
Ugly is harsh, but plain.
Okay, let's be very, very generous.
Yeah,
he is a plain Jane fella with mediocre taste that has a mundane job.
You know what he seems like is a divorced dad that's trying to be cool.
Yeah,
yeah, he immediately clues on to Lucy. He sees her being maternal, and he's like, "That's what I need in my life." Because Lost Boys come wandering in, and they're being hoodlums, and he's a little stern with them, and they're not respectful to him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, does he think that she can mother them?
That's the whole point of the movie. Not to bury, like, we're spoiling the big reveal of the third act now, but the whole movie hinges on the fact that Max wants Lucy to be a mom to his vampires. Because Max, these are the most unambitious vampires you've ever encountered in your life.
They just want to walk down the block and harass people.
Max, obviously not a very good vampire.
No, he runs a video store.
He has gone and turned 5 teenage delinquents into vampires, and he cannot manage them. He has his hands full with managing a video store, and he can't keep control of these boys. So,
I think Max might be worst vampire ever.
oh yeah, I think that was a phenomenally bad decision. Like, you know, imagine someone turned him into a vampire. Someone thought he was worth being
It's like,
a vampire.
oh, here's a smart fella.
Yeah.
He can get by, and then he's just the worst.
Yes, he's been a very terrible vampire.
Yeah, so as we go forward doing different vampire movies in the future, I think we're going to keep a running tally for worst vampire
Or who's
ever.
the worst vampire? It's going to be hard to beat Max.
It really is, because he's just so bad at being a vampire.
Well, he was running before he could walk.
He hones in on plain Jane boring mom lady
Yeah.
to solve all his problems.
Well, he wants to hijack her and like get her to mom his vampires because he's out of his depth.
Here's a person who shows a glimmer of human responsibility. It's like, definitely an upgrade from me.
Yeah. And so while all that's going on, which we just think Max is just, like I said, divorced dad trying to be cool, and he sees divorced mom, and he's like, I'll give her a job at my video store, and then she'll be dependent on me.
Yeah, and then I can prey on her and
Yeah.
use my position of power over her and make her go on dates with me. It's super predatory.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's a vampire.
Yeah, maybe he's not the worst vampire. He's just bad.
He just has a weird niche. There's room for every kind of vampire.
I'm a divorced mom vampire.
Oh man. And so our boys are still stalking Star like creeps.
Oh yeah, Michael is stalking her like a creep, and Sam is tagging along, and he's not happy about it
Yeah. But Sam finds his out when he sees the comic book store.
because it turns out Sam is a comic book nerd, and he's an annoying comic book nerd. He's a actually splainer nerd.
Let's be fair to Sam. The Frog Brothers go to gatekeep him.
They do go to gatekeeping
And
because
so-
he doesn't look like a comic nerd, because he's dressed like a new romantic.
Yeah, like he's got his linen top coat, and
It's like a long pastel overcoat thing where he looks like he's out of like a Wham video.
yeah, or Duran Duran. Like
Yeah.
he's very much in that style. I guess I don't know if that is Duran Duran still new romantic, or is it a little post that? But
I don't know. I
think you're close enough that people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. That was an 80s style.
He's
that-
very hip. Like I was thinking,
yeah,
like
he's actually quite stylish for the era. Even though I don't like that style, I recognize that he is stylish.
and he's very very coiffed hair, kind of feather cut.
Which is weird because his mom is anti-stylish and his brother is just a total bro.
Yeah, that's true.
He's just like blue jeans, white t-shirt, and like a brown bomber jacket.
yeah. Well, not yet. He hasn't got the. He's
No.
He's
He
still.
gets the brown jacket at first, and later on he upgrades. He gets a black.
Yeah,
jacket.
he's got like an army surplus
Or is
jacket
it?
in these first scenes.
Okay.
But so, cut to the chase. Michael, trailing Star, catches up with her, and then runs into the Lost Boys, and then he gets his first glimpse of his real romantic interest in this movie, David, the head vampire.
Yeah, because basically, Star is going to get on Michael's motorcycle and go for a ride with him. And David is like, Star?
Yeah.
And he's like, having none of it.
Well, that's later. This is
that
that's
later?
their second meeting. This is that's when he does get the leather jacket. We spent a lot of time at the boardwalk, so it's okay if these things all kind of run together.
Yeah, sorry about and I did want to touch back. Sorry about the disorganized chronological order, because this middle part of the movie, and I think
It's repetitive.
it's not only is it repetitive, but it's really mushy. Like, it's not a very good linear story. All of these scenes could have happened in almost any order.
Oh, yeah.
They're not written in a way that is extremely important. word. It's like a video game where they wrote a bunch of side quests that could be done in any order and in this area.
Yeah.
But anyway, like when Corey Feldman, when he appears, and he's one of the Frog Brothers.
Right.
And they meet up with Corey Haim, and
they want to check his bona fides because he doesn't look like what they think a comic book geek looks like.
because he doesn't.
Yeah, and he drops a bunch of nerd nonsense on them. And
I don't think any of that was real.
Well, I don't know that it pertained to the comics that they were like messing with. Like he had a bunch of like in the era Superman comics, and he's talking about like stuff from the 30s.
Yeah, he totally is like flexing on them, and they're like, huh, okay.
Yeah, he passed the test ultimately, and they slip him the Vampires Everywhere comic book.
Yeah, and you know the thing that actually kind of struck me, and maybe this is just strikes a nerve because with me specifically, but I really don't like the Frog Brothers being military posers. I think that's lame. First of all, in this modern day of 2020,
yeah, it changes.
Paramilitary posers, that's a political statement in this day and age.
It was then too, although not as hard of one, because you would see your subculture people wear that army surplus gear stuff.
And I did it too when I was young. I wore military combat boots. I had a field jacket.
Yeah. So I wrote in my notes, if the Frog Brothers were real people alive today, they'd have a very toxic online presence now.
Yeah, they might have a presence on the dark web. They definitely have a Parler account.
Yeah, they're on Parler. Because you see, like, Edgar Frog has, or is it Alan? I'll mix them up.
They're irrelevant.
The one that's not Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
Wears like an NRA t-shirt, and like they definitely nowadays would be alt-right Gravy Seals.
Yeah, and I don't like those guys. I mean, because I'm a military veteran, and I just think whenever I see the fake stuff where they're like pretending and they do like really fake military speak, especially when they try to use like a radio protocol and they do it totally wrong.
Yeah,
it's just like, just stop, dude. Just stop.
Yeah, so they're a particular kind of nerd, and I think it probably went over different then, although I think the political implications were still there.
But I think in the 90s when I watched this the first time, I actually thought the Frog Brothers were cool at the time.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to. I think a young boy is supposed to identify with them.
Yeah, these are guys who are into vampire comics. They're wearing cool military gear. You know, so at the time I thought it was rad. Now I think it's extra.
Yeah. Well, they're your friends from childhood that you have unfollowed or blocked on Facebook. That's who the Frog Brothers are in real life. Okay. You were friends back then when you were all kind of into the same thing, but now you can't stand those guys.
Yeah, I have a couple of those that I've unfollowed.
You know some Frog Brothers?
They haven't unfollowed me. Every now and then they comment on something just totally random on socials. But anyway, so I just wanted to comment on that, how the styles of the Frog Brothers and Sam just clash so hard.
Yeah. And while they're having their little meet cute, the surf Nazis steal a bunch of comics from the dollar bin in the front.
Yeah, and they run off. And I was watching the movie and I was like, who are those guys? These guys are losers.
They're just food, Michael.
They're just randoms. But then it kind of goes to the they're on their bikes, like the vampires are on their bikes. I really like those bikes.
Yeah, they're kind of rat rod.
That's exactly what I wrote. They're rat style off-road bikes.
Yeah.
For beach riding, but they also ride them on the road.
I thought so too. And again, it's one of those places where they've used their budget to the most effectiveness. And it really is really good styling. Just another one of those trivia things. Kiefer Sutherland broke his hand riding the bike, and that's why he wears those fingerless gloves through a lot of the movie, is because it's to cover up the cast.
Oh wow, I did not know that. Yeah, I mean those bikes are really cool. I thought it was awesome.
And it gives Michael this, because Michael has a dirt bike that's his little cruising vehicle, and he has a real sense of inadequacy when he sees.
He's like, I can't beat you.
Yeah. Like, he basically, when he sees the Lost Boys, it's a turning point for him. He starts he gets his ear pierced, he buys a leather jacket.
Yeah, I have a note here that says like black leather jacket equals cool. Mm-hmm. Copying the vampires is a good call in this case. Like, I mean, I think black leather jackets are cool, and I think that, you know, riding the motorcycle and stuff, he's doing all the right things. And I mean, Star digs him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Star likes it. It all seems to be working, and he's really, like, him and David have this really intense thing right from the jump. Also, we can brush over this, but another surf Nazi gets bumped off here after the comic book stealing thing. We get another flyover, and they pick off another one of those guys.
Yeah, so basically, I was thinking about this. We have the flying vampire scene where they kind of prey on those surf Nazi guys, and they the thing that really kind of gets me is that this movie was rated R.
Is it rated?
It's rated R, and if this was a modern R, oh man, that would have been a much more grisly scene.
Yeah, there's no real like gore and stuff until the third act of this movie.
Yeah.
Everything is very low key. That's interesting that that's rated R, because I don't think it would be now. I think it'd be a PG-13.
I do too. And the 13 is only because of the end, the fight scenes. So basically, I really like that, you know, they've got the whole, Michael is trying to get Star to get on his bike, and then David gets her to get on his, and he's like, I can't beat your bike.
Yeah.
And he goes, you don't have to beat me, Michael. You just have to keep up.
Yeah. And so they have
That's a heavy exchange. They make some lingering eye contact.
And they go, I think that scene is so funny because, what Michael looks very nervous about riding his dirt bike on the beach, and I just think, like, that's what it's for, dude. Like, this is an off. You have a dirt. This is dirt, and this is what you ride the bike on. Like, I don't know why he's so, like, insecure about the bike.
I think that they have beefier bikes, and he just doesn't want to look bad.
Yeah.
And basically, like, this montage where they're like, he's trying to keep up with them, and he ends up passing the other Lost Boys and getting up next to David, and they have another moment where they're riding towards the bluffs, the cliffs, and David says, how far are you willing to go, David? Or Michael.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's really cheesy, and it's easy to laugh about it, but it's actually a pretty intense scene. Like, Kiefer Sutherland delivers that line with sincerity, and I actually quite liked it.
Yeah, it's something Schumacher remarked on the charisma of Kiefer Sutherland, and kind of how little dialogue he actually has in the movie, but how compelling he is. Like, he is. I mean, he's the boss vampire in the making.
Yeah, he is this movie. There's a reason why if you have a Lost Boys poster, it's Kiefer
him.
Sutherland.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not Max.
It's not
the Frog Brothers. It's not the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
It's just Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
Because he is this movie. In my opinion, he's the stand-up performance. But I guess,
well, and he's, you know, to go back to that Clockwork Orange comparison, he's Alex in Clockwork Orange. He's the guy. Like, if you dress up like as for Halloween, it's him.
Yeah, for sure. And so basically David leads them to this to their vampire haven, which is like an old resort that got destroyed by an earthquake, and so this is like a ruin.
Yeah, and so it's the exteriors are a real place, but the inside is a set on the WB lot, and it's very it's like it's 80s and subcultured up, but it is.
Lots of candle wax.
Yeah, but you can see it's very evocative of the Lost Boys hideout in Peter Pan.
Yeah, I mean, that was not lost on me.
That is under a tree and subterranean like that. Like, you can kind of see some of the bones of the Goonies version of this movie in that set. But
yeah, for sure.
But sexied up. So we got a lot more, like, lace curtains hanging.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like silk drapes and stuff.
Yeah, the big Jim Morrison poster, and
yeah, for
there's
sure.
like a hand-painted Misfit skull on the wall I noticed in there. So there's just some really good detail, really good set dressing.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. And then the scene when they're in there, they're just chilling in there, and they get Chinese food.
Yeah, Marco, the beta of the crew gets sent out to get food. They get there, and David's like, Marco, food, and Marco runs off, and then he comes back. He's like, Chinese, good choice.
Yeah, like it's really meaningful.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah, and so
can you imagine, like, you just change that line, it's like, hot dogs, good choice. I mean, it's just kind of silly.
it is. It's all very silly, and Michael's trying very hard to keep up with the cool kids.
Yeah, he's trying to act all cool, and he really is Sir Fronts-a-lot in front of Star.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like pretending to be like too cool for school.
But Star just gets pushed to the side. This whole scene is David and Michael.
Yeah, this is a bromance. These guys are really trying to vibe on one another. I guess obviously David is trying to get Michael in his gang.
Yeah,
and that's what Michael seems to have the idea. Oh, they want me in their gang. He obviously doesn't know about the vampire aspect of things.
Yeah. And so
it seems like he's into joining the gang.
He definitely
He already copied their fashion.
Yeah, he wants to be one of these guys. Like, these are the coolest guys he's seen since he got to Santa Clara.
And they are the coolest guys.
Santa Carla. Santa Clara is a real place. Santa Carla is the place in the movie.
They're the coolest guys in that city.
So David starts doing little vampire magic on Michael.
Yeah, like mind tricks and stuff.
And this is the stuff that really stuck with me from childhood. This scene,
the maggots.
Yeah.
That really got me when I was a kid. I was like, oh, gross. Ugh.
For mealworms aren't maggots, and they're actually a good source of protein.
Yeah, you could have eaten that.
Yeah, but that would have been the more hardcore thing to do.
It's not vegan, by the way.
It's definitely not vegan.
What? Mealworms aren't vegan?
Yeah. I mean, I guess mealworms themselves are vegan.
They are vegans.
But eating them isn't. But this is all he's doing his little Dracula tricks
just fucking with him
on Michael, and it sets him up for, he whispers in Marco's ear. Marco goes and fetches the Pirate of the Caribbean prop wine bottle.
Yeah, it's a bottle of blood.
Yeah, and Michael, it looks to him like it's blood, and Star tells him it's blood. But he's primed to not believe his eyes, and he chug-a-lugs.
But the thing is David is so convincing. He looks at him deep in the eyes, and he says, "Be one of us."
Yeah,
and it's like, I was thinking about it. And I was looking at it. It's like, if Kiefer Sutherland with that glorious mullet looked deep in my eyes and handed me a bottle and said, "Be one of us," I think I would have been drinking that bottle too.
Oh, like at 19 or
yeah.
Or I guess they're probably like 17, 18,
yeah,
with senior in high school. Oh, for sure.
I would have drank.
Oh yeah,
deeply.
I would have eaten the maggots, the worms. I would have just been game for the whole thing.
Like, I'm in.
Whatever this is, I want to be part of it.
So, I've always wanted to be cool. You're inviting me to be cool. Yeah. So that's Michael in a nutshell. He says, "Be one of us," and Michael's like, "All right," and he immediately, no hesitation, just drinks deeply of the bottle. And I wrote in my notes here, smart move, Michael. Because anybody would have done it. And if you're sitting there listening to this podcast and you're saying, "I wouldn't have done it," you probably were not a 17-year-old boy that wanted to be cool.
Yeah. Well, I say, if you wouldn't have done it, obviously the vampires would not have ever got you to want to join their gang.
Yeah. And I want to be a vampire, so.
And then they party, like they have a little party montage. And if it was lost on you up until this point that Michael resembles a young Jim Morrison, we get an overlay of Jim Morrison's face over Michael's face.
Yeah, they give you a direct thing. So what's our next podcast fuel? Nick's fueling up.
I'm cracking into the next one. It's Dark Thoughts. It's a black IPA from Bearlick, which Dave always says that's his favorite style of beer. So, and it's got a pentagram on it, and it's super evil and metal looking, and so I thought I should grab one of these too.
Yeah. I like an IPA. I like anything that can be black makes it better.
It makes it better, yeah. And it's wintertime.
Yeah, so I'm totally
It's really good when you finish your blood orange.
Hit me, I'm almost there.
Okay.
So basically, that scene then kind of moves into the bridge scene where they're like, "Come on, let's go," and they
ride their bikes up to this railroad bridge, and Michael's like he's maybe a little buzzed at this point, and he's along for the ride. They left Star and her little brother Laddie, who we've just sort of brushed over. They've left them back at the Vamp Cave.
So Laddie is Star's little brother. He's a child and he's a vampire.
Yeah, or a half vampire.
A half vampire, which we later learn from Star as she tells Michael that you're not a true vampire yet until you kill someone, which is actually that's pretty mythologically sound from several different mythologies, and in specific, that's actually a Jim Butcher thing in the Dresden Files as well, which obviously Jim Butcher's got to be a Lost Boys fan because there's a whole court of vampires that are like these guys. Kind of.
Well, and not to tangent too much, we used to play Vampire the Masquerade back in the day, and Dave's giving the affirmative nod on the beer.
Yeah, this is a good one.
And there's a vampire clan called the Bruja.
Yeah.
That everyone, literally, when you're explaining the game to people, you say Bruja is Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And so there.
And so these guys take Michael out to a railroad bridge, and they start walking across it. And then you kind of hear the train coming.
Yeah. And they kind of one by one, because Michael asks, "What are we doing here?" And they're like, "Well, what are we doing here, Marco?" And everyone's kind of like being goofy, and they all just start dropping through this hole on the bridge.
Yeah. They're just going down, and it's all misty. You can't see the ground.
Yeah, it's very Universal Studios horror Dracula stuff.
Yeah.
The kind of the mist and everything. It often evokes the classic Bela Lugosi Dracula movie.
Yeah, and I thought Alex Winter's performance here was pretty good. Like, he didn't have a lot of lines, but he did a lot of physical acting that was really good. Like, he's the overly enthusiastic kind of over the top member of the gang.
Yeah. He seems like the youngest one. But anyways, they all drop down through the hole, and they beckon Michael to come down, and he crawls down there, and they're all hanging from pipes on the bottom of the bridge or from scaffolding.
They're just kind of hanging there, and two of them are fucking around, like kicking at each other and like wrapping their legs around each other and just kind of horsing around.
Yeah, and it could seem like, these are extreme sports guys, or the early version of that.
Daredevils.
And they're doing some Jackass type stuff. And then the train starts coming. And it seems to be the game is to hang on the bottom of the bridge while the train goes over.
And it's shaking and rattling, and it's super loud.
Yeah, and then one by one, they start dropping off. And Michael's kind of flipping out. Like, this is too much for him.
Yeah, so he's just freaking out, and he just can't hang.
Well, he hangs better than everyone else. Everyone else drops off, and he's still hanging there.
Well, they do it on purpose.
Yeah, and he hears them like calling him from down in the mist, and getting that, "You're one of us, Michael. Just let go. Just let go." And he doesn't want to let go. He tries to. He's a muscle man. He tries to pull himself up, but he can't do it. And he drops into the mist and has a very funny fall through the mist that it goes on for so long that he stops screaming and then starts up again.
Yeah, he's like flailing his arms a bit. It's a very unrealistic fall.
Yeah, and it reminds me of another Alex Winters moment, because when Bill and Ted Go to Hell, it's just like this.
Oh yeah,
they're
falling.
They fall for so long that they have time to stop and talk for a little bit and then start screaming again.
Yeah. It's not quite as exaggerated as that, but I think
it's close.
It's definitely evocative of that.
And then Michael lands in his bed.
Yeah. You just
Maybe
you just,
this was all a dream.
and then like it kind of, so for me it went from like, okay, cool vampire story, these vampires doing like initiation stuff, and then it's like, oh, back to Sam.
Yeah. So Sam comes in because mom's calling, and Michael, now he's turned into a vampire. He asks Sam to give him his sunglasses before he can even answer the phone, and Michael's sunglasses are the same frames that I wear. So pretty cool. Although mine are real Ray-Bans and his are knockoffs. But
And Sam is like, are you freebasing?
yeah, inquiring minds want to know.
It's just like, oh man, I
like Sam.
I
Sam's
don't like
a good kid.
Sam. The lines are just so overly dramatically delivered.
Sam is in Goonies, and
No.
Michael is in The Hunger.
Yeah, there's just these guys are acting in two different movies,
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair criticism. But
and I like Michael's movie better.
but so anyways, mom Lucy, she's working at the video store, and Max has coerced her into a date, and she wants Michael to stay home and watch Sam, even though Sam is old enough to be on his own. He's been on his own too much, and she's starting to get that parental guilt that he's being a latchkey kid and not getting watched over.
Yeah, so rather than assuage her guilt by engaging in parental responsibility, she pawns it off to her child.
Yeah, she exploits his labor.
Yeah, this is not good parenting. Is making your kids be parents. But anyway, I know this because I have two older brothers who are often forced to be substitute parents, and they were not good at it because they did not want to do it.
Yeah.
And Michael doesn't want to do it either.
No, Michael wants to go and hang out with his new gang.
Yeah, he's one of them now. I mean, they even said it, and he drank the bottle.
But he concedes to mom's guilt.
Yeah.
And he's going to stay home and watch the brother. But his attitude's changing. He's a much snarkier Michael now, and he's got some snarky words for Grandpa, who's also got a date. Grandpa's going out to prey on the widow Johnson. He's taxidermed her dog, and he's going out to score with her.
Yeah, that's just kind of such a cheeky plot line. Like, the widow Johnson.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I don't know if it would be funny now, but it's funny then.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the grandpa is a value add in the movie. He's a good character. And so Michael stays home with Sam, and very clearly David's gang does not approve, because later that night they surround the house and you see headlights shining in the windows and the revving of motorcycles.
Yeah, it's really weird because I don't think you actually could do a complete 360 around that house.
Not with that few of dudes.
Yeah, and somehow they're always shining the headlights in, even though they're circling. Like, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. But then the biggest thing, I guess, that doesn't make sense is when Michael opens the front door, there's nobody there.
Well, I mean, they're magical.
Yeah, it's just vampire magic.
And we know they can fly.
They just took off, and they're just messing with them.
Yeah, he has mind tricks. They can fly. These vampires have abilities, and so it doesn't. They have obfuscate. So
So they just bamf out
they
of
just
there.
bamf. Yeah, and so I was thinking to myself that this scene, if it was meant to be creepy, it wasn't creepy to me now. I thought it was a plot device where they were just trying to show that the vampires were unhappy with Michael.
Yeah.
But it didn't put anything home. Like, it didn't send the idea home that these guys are dangerous and they should be watched after.
They're still doing kid stuff. Like I said earlier, these are very unambitious vampires.
Yeah.
They're still behaving as though they are teenagers, and they're doing teenage stuff, like messing with their buddy or getting getting back at the rival gang and stuff. Like they have not set their sights high.
Oh, they probably have only been vampires for a short amount of time because they're still acting like adolescents.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe they're just trapped in that because
they're the Lost Boys.
Because of the age that they became vampires, they're permateens, and they're going to act like teenagers for all of history.
For the rest of time.
Yeah.
So basically in the house, after the vampires bamf out of there,
Michael says like the most infantilizing thing to his brother Sam. He says, "Go take your bath."
yeah, that's...
But then Sam does it.
and this scene, it kills me. Like, they linger so long on this young teenage boy taking just a bubble bath with the radio playing, and he's singing along, and he's combing his hair with the suds, and it's just like, who does that? Like,
Ferris Bueller does that, and I feel like it's a riff on the Ferris Bueller thing. Part of it is there's a lot of queer coding for Sam, that Sam is gay.
oh, is he?
Well, like he's got a poster of Rob Lowe in a tummy shirt on the closet door.
That Rob Lowe poster. I didn't know that was Rob Lowe, but I was like, he has a hunky dude poster in his bedroom.
Yeah, and he takes bubble baths, and he's very specific. So this is what I was writing down when we came down here to the pod cave. It's Clarence Frogman Henry is the musician, and he's kind of like an R&B piano man. Okay. In the vein of Fats Domino, and he played like up until the modern era on Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Okay.
And his whole thing, why he's the Frogman, is he does like these novelty voices, like, and it's he does this frog voice that he sings a verse of the song in, and he does a girl voice where he's like singing about how I ain't got a man. And that's specifically the part
the song
that Sam sings is where he sings in the falsetto about not having a boyfriend.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that was lost on me. I just but now that you pointed out, it does make a lot of sense. To me, it just thought to me like, okay, I was once a 15-year-old boy or a 14-year-old boy, and I never took a bubble bath. I was just took a shower and was done with it.
I'll sit in the bathtub, but I can't. I don't think I've taken a bubble bath since I was a little kid.
Yeah,
but I do like to relax in the tub.
Yeah, I'd rather just take a nice long hot shower if that's what I need.
I'm a soaker.
I'm not. I'm the opposite. And so it felt really contrived, but outside the bathroom, Michael needs blood.
Yeah, he's trying to drink some milk, and he's got the carton of milk that's got Laddie on it. Mm-hmm. And he goes to drink it, and he gets the bad tummy ache because milk's not what his body wants. His body wants blood, and the beast takes over.
And he starts going upstairs. He's gonna get Sam.
Yeah.
And now it
turns into Psycho.
In the Bizarro World version of this movie where Dave is the director, he gets Sam. And he drinks his blood. No, but Sam's dog is there.
Yeah, Nanook to the rescue.
And he gets in the way, and he bites Michael on the hand.
He bites the shit out of Michael. That's a grievous wound. Michael has a really cool effect on his eyes that's really subtle. It's not like the full-on vampy contacts we see later. Mm-hmm. And I really like that effect. It's just another one of these, like, doing the most with what you got moments.
Yeah, it was subtle. And then basically, like, Sam comes out and he's like, why'd my dog bite you? Yeah. What did you do to him?
What the hell did you do to my dog, asshole?
It's like... Okay, so first of all, nowadays victim blaming is not really a thing that we approve of. But if you're a dog owner and your dog bites someone, your dog's in the wrong. Yeah. That's just how it goes always.
Yeah, but Sam's immature. Nanook is a good dog. It's been shown to be this all the time. And Michael's acting weird. So there's a few factors playing it in this that I don't think that's a totally unreasonable reaction.
Sure. And so it kind of moves on.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
There's some good dialogue here.
Oh, yeah.
Because when they go downstairs and, we see that Michael's been bit by the dog, and they're having this talk, and Michael's trying to explain himself to Sam they catch a glimpse in the mirror, and Michael's gone translucent.
Yeah.
And Sam flips out because the Frog Brothers have been feeding him all this anti-vampire propaganda. And he's like, "You're a creature of the night." My own brother is a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. And that is by far my favorite line of the whole movie.
Oh, that's funny.
Shit. Vampires suck blood, not shit.
Yeah.
So,
I gotcha.
So you got that one wrong.
I think, and Michael starts floating.
Yeah,
uncontrollably.
He does a Ghostbusters. He goes to bed. Lucy, she's decided to be bad at everything. Mm-hmm. Lucy's being a bad mom, ditching her kids and going on the date, but she's being a bad date, ditching the date to call home. And Sam is sort of freaking out and wants mom to come home.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Michael is floating.
Yeah, he's floating, and he ends up like floating outside the window, and he has this exchange with Sam where he kind of convinces him to let him in.
Yeah, that's another one I felt was really silly. Like, if you're floating uncontrollably, what possesses you to open the window?
Yeah.
To go where
it makes no sense.
But that's what Michael does.
Yeah, he's a terrible vampire at this point.
Yeah.
He's only a half vampire.
He's only a half vampire, but it's freaking him out.
And so basically, like, that whole plot line with the mom and her love line, at that point in the movie, before you had it revealed to you that Max is the master vampire, it seemed absurdly pointless. Like, we care not about Max or the mom or her love life or any of it.
Yeah.
And then when Sam is like, "Mom, can I sleep with you?" It's like, dude, what teenage boy sleeps with their mom because they're not feeling well?
Again,
That's just not a thing.
they're not a healthy family. I was talking about this earlier. They're very, they're trauma bonded and very emotionally codependent on each other.
I know, like, they're like, girls are a lot more comfortable doing that sort of thing. In a lot of families or whatnot. But this is just not standard for American boys of this age, from this culture. You don't go and sleep with your mom when you're scared.
For real. No, I agree with you. And it might be a holdover from the earlier draft of the script when the kids are much younger. But at the age that Sam is, it just kind of plays into the unhealthiness of the family.
Yeah, they're definitely an unhealthy family. And I just was like, I was off-put by Sam through the whole movie.
Yeah, just coming up a lot.
Just in general. I was just like, man, I don't like Sam. Could we just delete this character?
Poor Sam.
And just make this movie about Michael and his mom moving to Santa Carla. But ultimately, I just was like, ugh, you're weird. You are deviant. And I know that it's not cool to judge people based on conformity to standard behavior, but that's pretty normal human reaction. And so the movie goes on, and it kind of, Michael returns to the vampire haven.
Yeah, he sneaks out of the house. Sam goes to bed with a wreath of garlic around his neck. Michael sneaks out. Grandpa's coming home from scoring with the Widow Johnson.
Yeah.
Michael pushes the bike down the hill.
He rides it. I've done this before myself on my dirt bike when I was a teen. You ride it with the clutch in and it's off, and then after you get a distance away, you pop the clutch and it starts up from engine compression.
And Michael heads back to the vamp cave to find out what's going on, to talk to Star.
What's happening to me, Star?
Yeah. And then
it's like, it's pretty damn obvious, dude. Even you get it at this point. You just want confirmation.
Yeah, but he Cry Little Sister starts playing,
and the answer to the question of what's happening to me is, you're getting laid.
Yeah. We're gonna have a very weird, unsexy sex scene with each other.
Okay, so here's a question: which scene is less sexy, Michael and Star, or Johnny and Lisa from Oh man, now it's killing me. The the Disaster Artist Lampoon the movie.
Oh shoot! Which one is left?
Yeah, which one is less sexy, Johnny and Lisa or Michael and Star? Oh man, I gotta remember the name of the movie.
The Room.
The Room. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So The Room.
The Room is more explicit.
It's but
less sexy.
You think it's less sexy?
Oh yes. Because
but Tommy Wiseau, he's got this sculpted physique. If you haven't seen The Room, go see it because we're definitely going to do an episode on that movie.
Oh man!
Or maybe the documentary
disaster
that lampoons
artist.
it.
Yeah. No. Tommy Wiseau and You're Tearing Me Apart, Lisa. That's a profoundly unsexy sex scene.
Okay.
At least this one, we get the cool Cry Little Sister, and it's well lit. It's still a Joel Schumacher, very stylish music video, kind of.
But it's not sexy at all. And
no.
It's very 80s softcore Skinamax.
And the thing that really struck me was... Laddie's there. Like, he's not on camera.
He's like the salacious crumb near the bed.
Yeah, there's this little vampire kid that's always like right next to Star. And
oh man, I didn't even think of that until now.
It's really gross when you think about it.
Well, a lot of things about this movie are very deviant.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, that's what I turned to Lisa. I was like, so they just do it with Laddie right there?
Yeah, I said, so like in my notes I wrote here, it's like, what's happening to me, Star? And I said, I guess the solution to the problem is a sex scene.
He's a teenage boy.
It fades to black after it doesn't get any more than literally Michael being shirtless. That's it's not, there's no nudity other than male above the waist nudity.
Yeah, for an R-rated movie, it's pretty tame.
Oh yeah, there's no female nudity at all in this movie.
And then Michael wakes up. And his hand is totally healed.
But I also wanted to note, that's the third time we get the
Cry Little Sister.
Cry Little Sister lyrical effect.
So, this is something... so Taika Waititi, director of Thor Ragnarok, said about...
And Mandalorian episodes.
And the Mandalorian, a couple Mandalorian episodes, said like why he used Immigrant Song twice in Thor Ragnarok. He's like... Well, we paid for the song, and you can use it as many times as you want once you pay for it.
Yeah, I mean that it makes perfect sense.
They commissioned this really epic rock ballad song, and use the shit out of it.
Oh yeah,
use it every time you can. You paid for it.
I think if I'd paid for Immigrant Song, I might have just played it through
the whole movie. It's just always
one of the greatest songs ever written, so we could just do that.
Yeah, exactly. So Cry Little Sister, they're getting their money's worth out of it.
Yeah, so his hand is totally healed, which made me think, is he a sex vampire? That's how he gets his power?
Yeah, it could be. And he leaves. He never gets his answer from Star, and he heads home, and Lucy's waiting for him, wants to have a cool mom chat.
Yeah, and I mean, somewhere around this point is where it's revealed where Max is the head vampire, I believe.
Kind of. Yeah. Okay. So Michael comes home. Lucy wants to have the cool mom chat with him because she's hip and she knows what the kids are up to.
Yeah, I think I kind of glossed over that part in my notes because I don't care about the Lucy scenes.
Yeah.
And I don't care about the Sam scenes.
Michael's like, you can't understand what I'm going through, and he goes to bed. And then we cut over to Sam with the Frog Brothers, and Sam's gone as they're the resident vampire experts.
Yeah. And
he wants to know what they can do. Frog Brothers are very focused on killing Michael. That's kind of what they want to do.
Yeah.
But Sam's actually been doing the assigned reading assignments, and he says if we take out the head vampire, the half vampires will go back to being normal. And Sam's got super good instincts. He's clued in on Max right off the bat, way before we have.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a leap of logic. It's not really. There haven't been very many clues.
Well,
I think David is the more obvious choice.
Well, and that's what you, the viewer, you think. But Sam lays it out totally plainly. Like he doesn't show up until after the sun comes down to the video store. Like all the vampire behavior that Max is doing, Sam's picked up on it.
And Max has a hellhound.
Max
and that's from the books too.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that we skipped over, is that Lucy goes to apologize for just ditching Max, and she goes to bring him a bottle of wine as like a I'm sorry gift.
Yeah.
And Thorn the dog chases her out of there, and they have this total Cujo moment where he's like bursting through the fence, and it turns into a horror movie again for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really cool dog.
Yeah,
like a big white German Shepherd. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so basically this is just Sam is having the conversation with the Frog Brothers, and they're doing a lot of exposition where they're talking about what could actually be, and then it kind of cuts back to Michael, and they're doing this thing where Mom is forcing them to have dinner with Max, kind of as a family, but no.
Michael's leaving. He's super angsty. He zips his jacket like all the way up to the top, and he's got his sunglasses indoors, and he's being a very shitty teen.
And notably, now that he's a vampire, he actually has product in his hair. It's styled.
Oh, I didn't pick that.
Yeah. So once he becomes a vampire, he actually looks cooler. He looks more put together. And so he's trying to leave.
But he meets Max at the door, and I was not remembering the movie very well because I hadn't seen it in a while. And Max says, like, "You're the man of the house. I'm not coming in until you invite me." And I was like, "Oh shit, he is a vampire."
Yeah.
Like, you never invite a vampire into your house.
I remembered that from when I was younger, and I thought to myself, it's like, yep, that's that. And it's a classic line, and I like that kind of old school vampire stuff. And then with Max being the master vampire, like when he meets up with Lucy, even before they have dinner or whatever, he's just greeting her. He just like goes in and kisses her, and I'm like, I guess he's kind of like I guess he's a vampire. He just kind of
he's seducing.
Yeah, he's doing that mesmerism thing, and he's doing the Dracula thing.
But Sam has the Frog Brothers come over, and they start applying vampire tests to Max, and Max clears all of them.
Yeah,
he eats the garlic. They spill holy water on him, and it doesn't burn him. And
can we really just highlight how bad the acting was in this scene from the Frog Brothers, from both Coreys? Let's just say the Coreys were hammy and not hammy. No, they were hamming it up, and the scene was not serious. It was not a horror movie. It literally was. There's a Goonies movie, and then there's a vampire movie.
Yeah,
and this
they're
was
in the Goonies scene,
and I didn't like it.
Okay,
I thought this scene was lame and annoying. I wanted it to end.
It is very. This is a Goonies moment, and not a Hunger moment.
I wrote in my notes, "This is seriously lame."
Okay.
And I didn't type that out lightly. I really just thought that scene was...
Is it all caps?
No. Since the notes are for me, I don't need to do that. But basically, this was one of those moments of pure cringe. It was like, this is not good filmmaking. I don't enjoy this. And I want to love this movie. I want this movie to be awesome. This is not awesome.
Okay.
And so, as an enthusiast for this film, I just thought that scene was so like hard to watch. It was like, ugh.
So while all this is going on, Michael goes to confront David, and they have one of their most, and this is where it's starting to get very homoerotic between them.
Yeah,
because they get up really close to each other's faces, and David holds Michael's face while they're talking. And they are...
I think that's okay if you're a vampire. I mean, it's okay all the time.
It's okay all the time if you're into it.
It's expected if you're a vampire, I would say. But that's normal behavior.
It seems like they're going to kiss. Like, that's a very... When you have someone...
I think
like,
if Keanu...
divers can't see how close the microphone is to my face, but it's how close Michael's face is to David's. and it looks like they're going to kiss.
So I think if Kiefer Sutherland makes you a vampire,
you have to kiss
you
him.
can kiss him. It's okay. It's fine. Just kidding. Just
If
do it.
Kiefer Sutherland wants to kiss you, you've got
And he's a vampire.
or not. You get a pass no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, yeah. To me, that didn't read as this is gay coding or whatever. To me, this is like, this is super vampire erotic. And vampires, in my I'm a fan of the vampire genre in general. Vampires are beyond sex.
Yeah, immortal beings in general.
They are attracted to your person, your spirit, who you are, and gender isn't really a thing for vampires. Like, and this is the Dave worldview.
Yeah.
Is it that vampires don't really care about gender identity, and so just David is into Michael, and Michael's into David, and whatever. It doesn't matter because these are vampires.
I think that's all pretty on brand or
And
on some like on point.
They're having this, like, I guess, whisper argument. And in the background is a bonfire with, I think, surf Nazis, right?
Oh, okay. So yeah, they have their little whisper argument, and then David's like, "Come on, Michael, like let's go." And they do a little motorcycle ride, and they go and creep up on the surf Nazis.
And so my question about the surf Nazis bonfire party is, they're like headbanging and drinking and throwing bottles and stuff.
To Run DMC.
It was the Aerosmith version collab with
Run DMC. Yeah.
I was like, would they be playing this? I don't think so.
It's a really it's a classic song. No,
Aerosmith Walk This Way with Run DMC.
Yeah, it's a classic song, and
Not
it's very
subculture.
It's very in the moment, but nothing about it seems like surf Nazis. And we've said surf Nazis many, many times. When we talk about surf Nazis, it's generally people that they're not neo-Nazis. They jealously defend a certain piece of beach that you can't surf there. Only locals only.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the whole scene down there.
Yeah.
And the term Nazi gets thrown around, and it's pretty
Yeah,
heavy.
surf Nazi is like soup Nazi, like on Seinfeld. It's not, they're not literally Nazis. Although there is a movie called Surf Nazis Must Die. And those surf Nazis literally are Nazis.
I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, neither have I, actually.
Okay, well, maybe that's fodder for the beast.
It could be. But yeah, so David takes Michael down to the beach, and they're watching the surf Nazis circle pit around the bonfire to Run DMC and Aerosmith. And David says, "It's time. Initiation's over, Michael."
And they have this cool scene, like, where they go around the gang, and all of them they vamp out, and they bare their fangs, and they're. It's interesting to me that they're not the canine teeth like Dracula, but they're also not the incisors, the front teeth like Nosferatu.
Yeah, they're the next ones
They're
out.
the middle one, or they're the ones just between that.
I think those are still incisors.
Yeah, they're the small incisors, and that's not normal for vampire lore. But that's cool that they have their own thing.
It's very distinct. And if, I remember we alluded to Vampire the Masquerade earlier.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if you went to the Tooth Fairy, who was our local cosmetic dental appliance creator,
fang prosthetics.
that was the Lost Boys fangs. That's what they were called, and you could get fangs made for those teeth instead of for your canine teeth.
And I really think the Lost Boys fangs are the way to go.
This is it's a really very influential makeup. Like, if you think of how vampires are portrayed cinematically
if I was
before
going to
this,
get a movie tattoo, because I like tattoos, it might be David vamping out.
and that was the shirt that our friend Lance had.
Yeah, that's one of those just super iconic ones. But Marco vamping out is cool. They all are cool.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I just thought it
so
was
we
awesome.
should shout Greg Canham is the makeup artist.
Oh, okay.
And that was a really influential vampire makeup. It really changed how vampires were portrayed in movies from here on out. And I think probably pop culture, the biggest influence is the Buffy series.
Oh yeah,
Buffy just cribbed this entirely. This
Like,
is what
they
Buffy
don't
vampires
look
look.
pretty when they get all vampy. They look more
But they don't look-
angular and extreme, but they don't look like
Bats.
full monster.
Yeah, they don't look like bats. They look just like more bestial humans.
Yeah, their faces are more like ridged, I guess, like pronounced cheekbones and the nasal ridge
and the
whatnot.
brow. Yeah, it's sort of
Yeah.
caveman
Yeah,
stuff.
they just get really primordial, I guess.
Yeah. And they FSU, they fuck shit up with the surf Nazis. And this is the gruesomest scene in the movie. They're ripping their scalps off and like
Yeah, they
it's
tear them
gnarly.
up. And I thought that scene was pretty formative when I was watching the movie as a young man. This is how I remember Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Because it's been, 2 decades since I saw it. And this is how I remembered Lost Boys.
Totally.
I remember them vamping out. I remembered the bridge scene. I remembered the motorcycle stuff. I remembered the Haven. I didn't remember Sam at all.
No, me
I didn't
either.
remember Lucy at all. I didn't remember Max at all. I just remembered Kiefer Sutherland and Alex Winter being vampires.
Totally. The scenes that have stuck with me for my whole life or most of it have been all of the David Michael scenes. Like, because
Yeah.
that's the emotionally compelling stuff in the movie. And Michael, he vamps out. He does, like, he looks like a vampire, like he goes into the frenzy mode or whatever,
Yeah.
but he holds himself back. Like, he does not partake in the blood orgy.
So let me ask you, if you were Michael, would you have joined in, or would have you just waited back? Would you?
I don't know. I've got good self-control on some things and not on others. So it's really hard to... I've been some kind of vegetarian for like 20 years.
Sure.
So probably not. Like, I probably am pretty good at not doing things. But, vampiric magic and the moment and going with the flow and the crowd, like, Michael had a tough... it was a tough job to not partake in that, I think.
Yeah, because I think the deal is like, at this point when he actually sees them do their fangs and all of that, then there's no mystery left. It's obvious, like, okay, they're vampires, you're a vampire too, Michael. David says initiation's over.
And he has not fed, so the bloodlust has got to be like just pounding at this point.
I think I would have joined them, because at this point I think you're like, well, I'm a vampire. All right, okay, vampires do what vampires do.
Yeah, and these guys have been nothing but dicks.
The surf Nazis don't deserve your respect or mercy.
Yeah, so it was Michael showed a lot of restraint here.
Yeah, and I think there's a cool line in there where it's evocative of the Peter Pan thing, where it says, they say, you'll never grow old and you'll never die, but you must feed.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the gang, after they do their feast and they come up on the top of the sand dune and everyone's just covered in blood, but they've chilled out.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're like, they look very cool in that moment. Like, that's another cool shot of the gang.
Yeah, this I don't know, is it cinematography or whatever? Just the way the shots are framed and whatnot. It's just really cool. This movie,
Very stylistic.
yeah, it's really good to behold these really iconic shots. So I think that was really cool, and that kind of ends that scene, and then it cuts to Sam again.
Yeah, we're back home.
And he's in the room, and Grandpa's brought him more taxidermy, and he keeps stuffing it into his closet. And I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, man, I wish I had a taxidermied eagle. like this stuff is awesome.
So that's like this is a weird thing where you talk about the two simultaneous movies that are going on.
Yeah.
Sam has got this movie that's going on where he's a certain kind of teen, and Grandpa seems a little unhappy with the unmanliness of Sam's room, and he's trying to spruce it up, and he keeps bringing him these animals, and Sam keeps stuffing them in the closet. if you want the metaphor to continue.
And it's just and in that scene I was just like, whatever. And then Star shows up at the house.
Yeah.
She's supposed to kill Michael.
Yeah, that's the big reveal from Star, is that she also is a half vampire, and Michael was supposed to be her first kill.
And so is Laddie,
which is a fucked up thing to do, to turn a little kid and trap them.
Yeah.
But I guess there's precedent for that. Like, I obviously Interview with the Vampires later, but
sure. And Interview with the Vampire is a better movie.
Yeah, well, probably. But Laddie, I think we can assume that Laddie got turned to entrap Star.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
he's just leverage.
Mm-hmm. It's, because you could also cure him, maybe potentially, or whatever. So it's like,
sure. It's
how they're manipulating Star, and Star is bait for more boys. Sure. Like, it's the whole thing. It's all very toxic. Everyone is.
There is no altruism in this movie.
Almost none. Yeah, Sam is good.
No, Grandpa's good.
Grandpa's good. Sam's good. Everyone else is a shitbird.
Sam is terrible to Michael when he gets bit by his dog and stuff.
But he doesn't snitch on him for being a vampire.
That's true. He doesn't snitch.
And his friends say they have to kill him. He's like, I can't kill him. He's my brother.
Yeah, I think Sam's a Hufflepuff.
Yeah. Michael's a Slytherin. He could go either way.
Yeah, for sure. So Star shows up and she's supposed to kill Michael, mm-hmm. but she can't do it because she likes him. And
maybe that ship's already sailed because he ended up joining the gang more or less.
Yeah, and I think I mean, if you're gonna. You said the word ship. If you're going to ship these characters, I definitely ship Michael and David more than Michael and Star.
Oh, for sure. Michael and Star have no chemistry with each other. Not none. And we should say, so she was not the original choice for that character. Schumacher wanted a Meg Ryan type, which is probably like, I want Meg Ryan, but I couldn't afford her, mm-hmm. is what that means. And the guy that plays Michael had been in a movie, Jason Patric. He had been in a movie with Jamie Gertz. And so it was he was like, this is who you should cast. So ostensibly, they have good chemistry with each other.
Yeah, aside
it just
from
doesn't show.
That awkward sex scene that wasn't good.
I think maybe the two actors have really good chemistry with each other, but it's not the story that Schumacher's interested in.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to bag on the actress, because I actually think, like, especially in that scene where you first see her when mm-hmm. Michael is kind of creeping.
Yeah.
I think she is really doing a lot of good nonverbal acting. She's dressed in a way that is pretty normal. She's wearing like a lacy shirt and
it's very Madonna of the time
skirt, and she's very pretty, and she's doing this kind of mysterious girl, mm-hmm. kind of slipping away at the last moment. And I think she's actually does a pretty good performance. I just don't think the writing is there on this particular moment.
Yeah.
And I think it might have actually been a situation where Kiefer Sutherland's acting actually made his intensity with Michael overshadow the relationship. And so that might not have been the writing at all. It might have just been they had a superstar actor they had an A-tier actor with a bunch of B-tier actors. Mm-hmm. And so you can't really, it's hard to work around that.
Yeah, the camera likes him.
Yeah,
and I think I think you're probably right on all of that.
And so basically, they decide to get in contact with the Frog Brothers, who I refer to as in my notes as the Chode Brothers, and they decide to take them to the vampire lair.
So they steal Grandpa's Ford Fairlane,
which is so uncool of them because he has that big truck and stuff, and he loves that nice old car. They should not have stolen his car.
And they drive around with the top
half up,
not secured, which you're gonna wreck it,
rip it off,
and then it won't go back in they really are disrespectful to this classic car that Grandpa babies.
I like Grandpa and I like cars, and I think they were dicks.
Yeah, that was a dick move. Grandpa's out there. I guess we brushed over this. Grandpa got the bad vibes off of Max.
Yeah, he's putting like huge stake pylons around his house in the ground, like sharp on the top.
If no one else is paying attention, Grandpa is paying attention, and he's definitely kind of hip to what's going on, even if no one else is.
Yeah, Grandpa is not into Max. He's not into the whole scene.
Yeah,
you know, and so he's just being wary and acting like a weird old guy.
Yeah, so he's planting the big stakes outside with the pointy end up.
Yeah, flat end down.
Yeah, and the kids, they take the Ford Fairlane and they go to the Vamp Cave, and it turns a little bit back into the Goonies.
Yeah, a lot back into the Goonies.
Michael goes and he's rescuing Star and Laddie. He's still in his movie.
Well, and the thing is like the Frog Brothers are like checking each other's gear with the stakes on their back and all that, and they just seem so comical. It's over the top.
Yeah, and it's very Goonies, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And obviously, Corey Feldman was in Goonies. Like, he's an obvious choice if you're making a Goonies type movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in a different movie. There's no doubt.
I'm not a huge Goonies fan. I know a lot of people just absolutely love that movie, but I think it's a little too silly for me. It's not for me.
I bet it is, just based on your reaction to all the stuff in this movie. So while Michael is rescuing Star and Laddie, the Frog Brothers and Sam go looking for the coffins.
And there's no coffins.
There's no coffins, but they bumble into the actual vampire lair,
and they find a chamber where they are looking around, and they look up, and all the vampires are hanging upside down. And my favorite part about it is that they have their arms crossed across their chests like they're corpses.
They have their arms crossed like they're in a coffin, and they've got cool bat feet, like that clutch onto these bars that are up in the roof of the cave. And
I also loved how when they're hanging upside down, it really highlighted the mullets, like Marco's
everyone's mullet is hanging.
Yeah, and like it's they're layered, and so it's great.
That is a moment that's really really stuck with me again from being a little kid. I thought that was such a cool evocative visual of them hanging up there like they're bats.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome too.
I don't think it's very smart, because if you know anything about these sort of like seaside caves, that thing's going to fill up with water like at different points throughout the year. Yeah. And it's not a very safe place to make your lair.
It could have been that's true, but also it seemed pretty high on the bluff, and it might have just been a collapsed part of that old resort. So
that's putting a lot of, maybe it's different because we're a little bit in the future and sea levels have risen a little bit. But I would not feel safe sleeping in that cave. Yeah. But anyways, it's a fantasy, so we'll forget that. Frog Brothers are finally gonna, put up or shut up. They go up there to start staking vampires,
and they get Marco.
Get Marco's. Let's start with the little one. One of the frogs says,
"Man, that's so sad because Marco is so great."
And Marco is the sweetest vampire of the whole gang.
He's the guy that'll fetch you Chinese food.
Yeah, he's the nicest one. So of course he gets it first. And there's some awkward stuff here where the stake obviously shifts from a wooden stake to a collapsible cardboard stake back to a wooden stake when it's sticking out of his back.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rough scene.
The effects are not amazing.
But the bloodbath that ensues kind of covers up the cheesiness of the stake.
Yeah, I think that it was just like, it was crazy. They're just like, the blood is spraying out and the boys are like running away as David and the other vampires wake up and come after him. They start chasing them.
Yeah, he says, "You're dead meat."
And then they get into the sun, and David's hand catches on fire as he sticks it out to grab
David's hand catches on fire. He gets a little sunlight on him, and then he sheds a real tear.
Oh man.
and it's really good. And it's honestly, it's just because of those funky contacts that, like, the Incredible Hulk contact lenses they're wearing were irritating his eyes so much. But it just makes a cool moment because his eyes are really welling up with tears, and it's like it makes this monster moment into an emotional moment.
Well, that's one of the great things about vampires as villains is that they are also people, and so they're relatable.
Yeah, and David is never unsympathetic, even when he's doing horrible things.
So after the Frog Brothers and Sam run away or whatever, they cut kind of to a montage of them getting ready for a vampire attack because at sundown they know it's going down.
Yeah, and so they get Mom and Grandpa out of the house. They contrive little stories for why they should leave. Oh no, Mom has got another max date.
And they tell
Grandpa that he has a date that he doesn't remember.
Yeah, the widow Johnson called and was waiting for him. And so like Sam and the Frog Brothers are riding through town on their bikes. And if you just look at the bicycles,
those are sick BMX bikes.
Well, Sam has a gold BMX with red handle grips and everything. And it is so flashy and over the top. And then the Frog Brothers have like camo bikes. They're like low gloss and they're dark colors. And it's like, okay, well, these are very, very stylized bikes.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that because it was like someone put a lot of thought into that. They didn't just give them 3 regular standard chrome BMXs and say go.
Yeah, no, the bikes are the style in this movie. Everything's on point. Everything is considered and well thought out. And they get their getting ready montage.
They go to the church.
They interrupt this baptism and they fill up their canteens with holy water. And I love all that stuff.
And they put it in the squirt guns and they mix it with garlic that they're crushing up. And they
bought like a metric shit ton of garlic. They have this great Costco bag of garlic.
It's very Goonies. This is a Goonies scene.
Oh yeah, totally. The bikes, everything about that is Goonies.
Yeah, and so that's the other half of this movie. And actually, I mean, the holy water and the squirt guns and stuff in it seems like a good idea, but it's pretty anticlimactic as in practice in the movie.
Yeah, I think it's funny because the thing that really makes it dates it because this is pre-Super Soaker.
Oh yeah, where you just hose someone down.
Yeah, like those are really shitty squirt guns, and like there's much better squirt gun technology just a year or two later.
Yeah, so like they get back and they barricade themselves in the house and all of that. And then, of course, they have their defenses all set. But then Nanook, he's tied up at the fence way out at the edge of the property.
It's hilarious.
Are you serious? Why? First of all, they never tie that dog up.
Yeah.
Why is he tied up now?
So when they got home, Nanook was not chill about them coming in with 3 vampires. And so he was being aggro.
He was being extra.
Yeah, and so Michael told Sam to put him outside, and I guess Sam took him all the way to the edge of the yard and tied him up
on the fence.
And so when they have a fence, you could just let the dog loose in the yard.
Yeah, exactly. And so rather than hide behind your defenses that you've carefully prepared, Sam runs out to get his dog, and of course Michael follows him. And they have this dramatic thing. And I was just thinking, like, okay, this is entirely ridiculous. I guess it's just to be dramatic.
Oh, totally.
Because then
they trip and fall on the way back. Like, it's
all the classic moves.
And we get some of the another flyover, a VOV. Or a VPOV of the flyover, and as they're running inside. And, you know, if we're talking about illogical stuff, in this house that is 360 windows all the way around, the vampires burst in through the chimney.
Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. This is okay, whatever. It's just dramatic.
Like, because it's like, you expect them to burst through the front door or the window. You don't expect them to come in through the hardest place to enter the house and come in through the fireplace.
Where they actually had a fire going, right? They had the coals and everything. And so like they have this kind of, I guess it's a cheesy Goonie inspired montage of fight scenes. Where
it's almost like pre-Home Alone.
Yeah,
they Home Alone these vampires.
Where it's about taking out the vampires, and the Frog Brothers. They have really bad lines like "Try holy water, death breath."
Yeah,
and you're like, psh, 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 and it's like squirts him, and it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, Corey Feldman is doing sort of. It's like
a Rambo voice because he's got the Rambo headband.
I think he's doing Kurt Russell doing Clint Eastwood. Like he's doing this, like it's a double impression.
Yeah, and it sounds so weird. He's like, "Hey guys, let's do this." Like, yeah, it just doesn't sound right.
He's definitely down like 2 octaves from his natural speaking voice.
Yeah, and so the Frog Brothers get a vampire. Another one.
Nanook gets a vampire.
Nanook rescues them.
Because I had in my notes Nanook MVP, like because Nanook knocks that vampire into the tub of holy water. And then the plumbing just goes bonkers after that.
Yeah, there's like blood coming out of every toilet, every sink.
It goes way over the top in this stuff.
And then Sam, he's the least athletic kid. He's an inside boy.
Yeah.
He likes his new wave music and his bubble baths.
Yeah.
But when he pulls out a bow that he's never shot before.
And that's a homemade bow and arrow.
It's a ghetto homemade bow and arrow. He kills the vampire in one shot. And I'm
two.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He shoots it once, but he misses the heart on the first one. And then the second one, he gets it through the heart, impales it onto the stereo system. We get to play In Excess again, I think.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh my God, Sam, go away.
But you know what we got from that? Sam says, "Death by Stereo." And Death by Stereo, obviously the band Death by Stereo took their name from that. So we got a cool Orange County hardcore band out of that moment.
Yeah, I was just like, man, that was so unbelievable. Like,
I don't think you could even shoot that bow and arrow convincingly. Like, I don't think a good bowman could do it.
Yeah, it's not a good bow. It's not a good scene. Ultimately, not a good scene. And then at some point, Laddie vamps out. Like he's freaking out, and I'm just like, wow.
It's the attack of Eddie Munster.
It looks like a Muppet. Just stick him in a closet or something.
He's not very intimidating, although he's got his Morbid Angel fans going and his hair is blowing majestically.
Yeah. He's just so... I was just like, did this movie need Laddie? No. It could have been cut, 100%.
It's practically cut. I mean, Laddie doesn't get a lot of moments.
He should have had
He's
moments.
A prop.
Yeah, he is a prop. And so then it kind of cuts to the David and Michael fight scene.
Yeah, we go back to the real movie.
The actual vampire movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they're battling it out. And David is playing with Michael. Mm-hmm. And he's definitely more powerful. And he just should have taken him out. Really.
He doesn't want to.
I know, but Michael's a traitor. And Michael got the rest of the gang killed. He really should have just taken him out. They're doing this midair floating grappling. This is where they use their budget. They couldn't afford flying vampires.
Yeah. They could. This is the one flying scene they get, but they're not fighting. It's more face holding and emotional talking.
And talking. Yeah, this is grapple holding. This is a struggle snuggle.
Yeah, it is a struggle snuggle.
And they're just not happy with each other.
Yeah, he's like, "I don't want to kill you, Michael. Join us. My blood is in your veins." Yeah.
And how could Michael resist that? Why didn't he just say, "Okay, David.
We should kill my family together"? No, but so they fight it out, and Michael starts trying to impale David on the mini antlers that
Yeah,
are available
so
in this
he
house.
impales him on like some impala antlers or some
Yeah,
like
and-
an ibex from Africa or something.
That's what I thought. Ibex. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was an ibex as well. And I did not know the antlers would do the job.
Wow.
It's not wood. And so
Let's get. If you pay attention to all of the various death scenes, everyone has died spectacularly.
and David is just impaled.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just laying there.
Right. So in the planned sequel, David was supposed to come back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there was Joel Schumacher was planning on doing a second film that just never came together.
That's sad because that would have been awesome.
Yeah, and
it's never too late. Kiefer Sutherland lives.
Yeah, but Joel Schumacher doesn't.
Oh, that's true. But
And Corey Haim doesn't, although you're not a fan.
Yeah, we can leave him out. I think Jason Patrick still is alive.
Yeah, that's true.
So we could have done a really good one. We could do.
There's still, someone could still pick this up. But anyways,
Let's not forget about
we're
it.
tangenting too much. He was intended to come back in the sequel though. So that's why Michael impales him there on those ibex or impala antlers or whatever. And he goes he shaves while he's sitting there.
He's in torpor.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much younger shaving that beard off. Like it makes him look like he's like 16 now.
Yeah, and so he's dormant, and then Max shows up.
Yeah, Max comes with Lucy because Lucy couldn't quite get some of the nonsense that Sam was saying out of her head, and she wants to go home and check. And she comes home to find the house in disrepair. It has been wrecked. And Max walks in, and he sees David, and he's very sad. And then he starts villain-splaining.
Yeah, he basically lays out the whole plan. He's like, your boys and my boys. And
The blood-sucking Brady Bunch!
fucking Corey Feldman. And really, like, it just, his motivation doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you're a vampire getting Lucy,
So let's go back to when this movie is a Peter Pan riff.
okay.
Lucy's Wendy.
All right.
And that's part of the pitch is that Wendy can be a mother to the Lost Boys. And so it's just this sort of vestigial Peter Pan reference from a much earlier version of the film.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense from that point of view, that this was a mix of visions. This was not a singular vision. And then you see headlights and busting through the double doors in the truck.
Yeah, it's like
His grandpa.
Is it like a Toyota Land Cruiser or a Jeep or like?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
couldn't.
not a
It looks like
Jeep.
it looks like it's a mix of vehicles.
Yeah, it's some old timey
Frankenstein off-road truck.
And he hits Max and he impales him.
Yeah, he comes through with Chekhov's giant stake post and drives one of those fence stakes that he's been pounding in outside. He drives one through Max, impales him into the fireplace. Max explodes.
Yeah.
Um,
House is screwed.
Everyone is all like soot-covered faces, and they're all kind of shell-shocked. But everyone stops being vampires.
Yeah, because the master vampire was dead. So now all of them are no longer vampires.
Yeah. Michael chills out. Laddie chills out. Everyone's checking on each other.
And
Grandpa gets out of the truck.
And then People Are Strange comes on.
Well, Grandpa gets out of the truck,
Oh, yeah.
walks over to the fridge, gets to his special shelf, gets one of his root beers, and what's the line?
He
He says, "One thing I never could stomach about living in Santa Clara, all the damn vampires." Fade to black. The movie's over.
and then the Doors starts playing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, that was anticlimactic.
Right? It's such a weird ending.
And so that's the end of the movie. It's it's a strange way to end it. So what are your personal highlights, or what worked for you in this movie?
A lot of the stylistic stuff works for me, right? Like I've been listening to the soundtrack a bunch, and I mean maybe there's one or two duds on there, but I like NXS. I like Echo and the Bunnymen.
Sax Man.
I like Capello. I like him too, apparently, because those songs have just been in my head like for the last couple weeks. And so I like all that, and I like the stylistic choices that are made. I like the way the house is decorated and the vamp cave is decorated. Santa Cruz, California. It makes me want to go to Santa Cruz, honestly. Like,
yeah, it seems like a pretty cool town.
Yeah, so it's like I just think like the aesthetic of this movie is flawless, and I think that's a lot of what people love about it. And I like Kiefer Sutherland. His performance is really magnetic and really compelling.
Yeah, so I'm on board with you as far as my personal highlights. For me, it was about the young vampire gang. Just, they were cool. They were flying around, living La Vida Loca, just doing their vampire thing, riding motorcycles, being thrill seekers. I thought Kiefer Sutherland, his performance was just standout. He is the poster for this movie. He is this movie. His performance was stellar. I also thought, sort of as a honorable mention, that Jason Patric, who played Michael, he also did an amazing performance. And I think those two actors had great chemistry, and there was a lot of charisma on the screen when they were on the screen. And for me, those performances are what I wrote down. But I totally agree with you with regard to the aesthetic and the look, the choices of fashion and the motorcycles and the Haven, the vampire lair, all that stuff. That was all really cool. And I think that the look of the movie was really good. So what didn't work for you?
I think we've alluded to this a lot. I think there is kind of two movies going on, and they don't join flawlessly with each other.
Yeah.
And so, now watching the movie twice recently and then talking it out with you, the seams show even more to me than they did on the viewings. It's like it's become really easy to pick out, this is an old scene, this is a rewrite scene, and and kind of see how they Frankenstein the movie together. So that's a bit of a bummer, and there's some, like you've alluded to a few times, some overacting choices that were done.
Sure.
That you can learn to love them, but they'll take you out of the moment.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
What about for you?
Okay, so for me, the number one thing was bad acting. I think that both Coreys were bad in this movie. They were just cheesy Goonies movie acting, and that's not what I wanted from this movie. Because normally, so if I'm watching the Goonies and I'm thinking, okay, this is a campy, characterful romp with a bunch of kid actors, and it's fun.
And actually, the acting in Goonies is better.
Yeah.
Like, Corey Feldman is better in Goonies than he is in this movie.
When it's the whole movie and that's the movie, I can get on board with it. But when you also have David and Michael, and even the scenes with Star, when you have intense scenes and you have strong acting, it highlights the bad acting.
For sure.
It really shines a light on what the movie could have been, and then a bunch of wasted filler scenes. And so that's my number one. And then the other one was just kind of the premise. Max, the master vampire, who's a square middle-aged guy running a video store, who creates a gang of rascals as vampires, and then looks for a mom for the Lost Boys. He looks for his Wendy. Like, he's the Peter Pan? No, really, David's the Peter Pan. If there really is one. But basically...
Yeah, maybe he's the Captain Hook.
Maybe he is the Captain Hook. But basically, the whole premise for the movie is funky.
Yeah.
I would have rather this been kind of a culty movie about a gang of vampires trying to induct someone who resists, and kind of cut the camp, cut Max, cut Lucy. Maybe keep Lucy, but cut Sam. Maybe keep Grandpa, cut the Frog Brothers. I just really think that the overall premise doesn't work. This is two movies that were slammed together that didn't pair well, and so those elements occasionally took me out of it. So, what are your final thoughts, and what is your rating for The Lost Boys?
I've really vacillated on my rating, and I could honestly rate this, even though this is only one point of difference, because there's sort of the fractional values in between.
Sure.
It could be a 3-star or a 4-star movie, and I've gone back and forth between the two, because once I really especially on my second viewing, I appreciated it as a kind of throwback monster movie. Mm-hmm. And a lot of I think it does all that stuff really well. It's a great monster movie, but it's not necessarily a great story. So how do we value those things? Because it's really good what it is, but what it is a very niche thing.
Okay.
And I don't want to just go 3-5 and give it a middle of the road, because I really kind of want to go strong one way or the other. And maybe this is crazy, but I'm gonna say it's a 4-star movie.
Wow, the bold move.
I'm gonna go strong because I watched it and then watched it 2 days later, and I liked it more the second time. My appreciation just sort of builds the more I lean into it.
Okay.
And so I think you have to look at it like I would look at any sort of Hammer horror movie or something like that, and the camp is part of it, and it's just part of the overall package.
So my final thoughts is that this was fun, and I did enjoy it. It did not age well. It is not a timeless movie. It's not something that you can just put in and it's always going to be relevant and it's always going to be great. I think they inserted too much pop culture of the moment, and it's too dated to 80s. It's very locked in that time period.
Yeah.
This is not a timeless vampire story. I feel like there were some really amazing performances. Some of the acting was extremely good, but there were also lots of extreme cringe moments. Mm-hmm. There were moments that I like to refer as the pull out the phone moments.
Okay.
And this was not a thing in the 80s and 90s because we didn't have a phone, where literally refreshing Instagram more interesting than the current scene.
Oof. Okay.
That was a thing. And I had to literally put my phone down to be like, no, don't do that. You're doing a review right now.
Focus. Yeah.
Focus, because this scene sucks. And write that down. Write that in the notes. This scene sucks. I pulled out my phone. And so that is a reality of the situation for a movie that I came into wanting to give a really high score to. Mm-hmm. And I looked at all of my back scores on all of the things, and I'm really consistent on how I rate things, which is fairly low compared to you. And I really wanted to love this. I wanted to come out strong with a 4-star rating and be like, this is awesome. But it's hard for me because I think that this, just like you were saying, this is extremely niche. There are two types of people that are going to want to watch this. One are people who love the 80s. And there's a lot of those right now. Like for some reason right now in the 2020s, the 80s are fashionable. 40 years ago, I guess, is cool. Because I remember in the 90s, people liked the greaser style, the hips, the stuff,
Well,
I guess.
fashion kind of runs on a 17 year or so, like a generational cycle.
So this is what, like 2?
Yeah. So it's almost like it's multi-layered, so that it's a retro.
It's
I guess
retro.
Yeah, retro 2000s for when the 2000s was retro from the 80s, from when the 80s was retro from the 50s.
Yeah,
or 60s rather.
So I really liked the movie because there's the 80s retro people, and then there are the people who like vampire movies.
Right.
And I fall into column B. I'm not an 80s retro fetishist like a lot of people are. I actually love the 90s. If I'm going to choose a decade, that's my decade.
This is getting there.
It's getting there, but it's not quite.
It's late 80s.
But so I was right there with you. Either 3 or 4. And I was like, man, because I love the David and Michael scenes so much. Those are 4-star scenes. And I think all of the Sam content is 2.5 to 3.
Okay.
And so I did choose a hybrid rating, but I actually went with a 3.25.
Okay.
And I did that because I call a 3.5 a solid recommend. And I know that's weird, counter to counter logical, but we've explained this before in our redo episode where we talk about our rating system. But I think a 3.5 is a solid recommend. A 3.25 is a qualified recommend.
Yeah.
It's the qualified recommend is if you like the 80s or you like vampire movies, watch this. If you do not consider yourself an enthusiast for either of those topics, skip.
Yeah.
And so I think 3.25 is the rating for me, even though it doesn't really agree with the critics. Rotten Tomatoes gives it the 75% critical rating, which is certified fresh, 85% audience rating. And then I don't want to just rely on Rotten Tomatoes. I wanted to find another good site. And so I ended up going with Metacritic.
Yeah, that's the other big one.
Yeah, and I'm going to say I like Metacritic better than Rotten Tomatoes because Rotten Tomatoes is annoying with their like weird ads and the browser nonsense, and it's just irritating. Anyway, Metacritic has a critical rating of 63%, which highly agrees with me.
Yeah, that's very on point with yours.
But it has a user score of 8.8, which is with you.
Yeah.
So I think our ratings are actually on point.
Yeah, I could easily in a different mood have gone the same as you. And I just sort of came out like I've let this kind of roll around in my head for a week or so, and I just came out with the positive feelings. Like that, the positive outweighed my naysayer that was like, that was pretty bad.
It's weird because a 3.25 sounds like I didn't like the movie, but really, since I'm a fan of the vampire stuff, I really do like this movie. I would watch it again. I would recommend it to anyone who's into 80s culture or vampire stuff. But if you're just a normal person, like I work with people much younger than me, like in the public. I wouldn't recommend this to any of them unless they specifically said, I like vampire stuff or I like 80s stuff. And some of them are into that. Young people are into those. The 80s is really popular with teenagers right now, which is who I work with. And so I would recommend this to them. And also it's a pretty, as far as recommending this to random people, this isn't going to get you any weird looks. Like, there's really no nudity. It's just a little bit violent. It's a pretty wholesome movie. So I would recommend this, but I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. By and large, it's a negative recommendation to the vast majority.
I think that's pretty on point.
All right. So did you have any more thoughts on Lost Boys?
No, I think that's a wrap on Lost Boys. So let's take a break and we'll come back with our final segment. Welcome back, divers. This is our final segment, the one where I ask Dave, what are you into right now?
Well, I think you know. I have been playing Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay.
And this is a little bit of a hot take because we're going to drop this on the 15th and the game came out on the 10th.
Okay.
And you played it for just a minute this morning when you came over. And so there's a lot of information online, and you can really just go and watch long reviews about this movie. It feels like a movie about this game if you want. But I'm going to give you my 2 cents because if you've listened to us for this many hours, you probably are interested in my perspective on it. So ultimately, this is an adult video game.
Yeah.
This is not something that you plop a kid down in front of.
Well, I mean, if you're Lucy from Lost Boys, your kids are playing this game.
Yeah, maybe. So this has sexual content and violence as common parts of the game. And so you should probably understand that going in.
Yeah.
You can mostly avoid the sexual content if you want. You can kind of ignore it, but you really can't avoid violence in general. There is a very, very strong stealth aspect and a hacking aspect of the game that you can mostly do if you really don't want to play another run and gunner game. That is a big part of the game. But I just wanted to preface this by saying this is an adult video game. So if you're a fan of open world games like Red Dead Redemption or Skyrim or Fallout
or GTA,
I said the other ones because I've played the other ones. I haven't played GTA, but I'm now interested. Now that I have joined Console Nation. I got a PlayStation, so
you're one of us, Michael.
Yes, I guess I am. And so I will probably go back and play GTA, but this is one of those games that's open world. It's got 1,000 quests thrown at you or mission opportunities that you can do. And then it has kind of a main storyline. It's really role play heavy. The decisions that you make have a big impact on how NPCs treat you and how your story unfolds. Just one small example that's a spoiler-free moment is you have a fixer. Fixers are the people who get you jobs and, help you get stuff and whatnot. Your fixer gets you a job, and then you get in contact with the client, and the client says, "Hey, let's cut out the fixer. I'll give you half the profits, and we can ignore the fixer's cut. Let's just do this alone." So you have the option of taking that, or you can say, "Nah." Or you can go to the fixer and you can turn them in. And all of these different options have different outcomes.
Ooh, that's a lot of variation.
Yeah, and so it's pretty fun. And just so you know how I roll, because I am who I am, I went to my fixer, who was my friend first, who I am loyal to, and I said, "Listen, this bitch wants to cut you out of the deal." And he was like, "Oh yeah, she's not the first noob." She didn't say noob, but she's not the first one that's tried to ace me, and she won't certainly be the last. I don't take it personal. It's just part of the game. But for your loyalty, I'm going to give you more money for this mission.
Nice.
This is pretty cool. And so that's sort of how it goes. It's got a robust system of skills and perks, kind of like Skyrim or other video games like that. It's
like skill trees.
Yeah, skill trees. It's more robust than Skyrim, but if you've played that, you kind of get it.
It looked very in-depth.
It is. It is pretty in-depth because skills not only have perks, but the skills themselves have skill levels. And the more you use a skill, the more you get experience in that skill specifically, and it levels up and you get rewards from that. And then the more overall XP you get, the more you level up as a character. And so it's a pretty wide and diverse thing. And so it benefits you to do many things. Like even if you don't want to be a hacker as your main gameplay, going and do some hacking or some crafting or using a different type of weapon, just do it so you can earn XP in those areas and get some perks, some passive perks for your character.
That seems cool. So give us a little more background. So there's different like archetypes or whatever.
So that's actually my bullet point here that I was about to get to is when you start your character creation, so it has a robust character builder model system where you're choosing like all the physical aspects, and yes, that includes genitalia.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't need that, but sure, if you got it, I'll take it.
And you can take it. You can turn that off actually if you don't want.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, you can turn it off if you're not into it, or you can just choose what you got. Your business, and so and it has different voice choices, and you choose. They did choose to tie gender pronouns to what voice you use, which is actually kind of a controversial thing.
I can see that.
A lot of people who don't like that. They thought you should have had a separate slider of pronouns versus voice, but whatever. I'm not overly perturbed by it, but I know some are.
That's fair.
And so I made my character, and I made him all tatted up, and he has face tattoos that look kind of like corpse paint for black metal, except in reverse. Yeah, no, it is corpse paint. So it's black around the eyes and stuff.
I thought it was kind of like a skull face.
Yeah, it was skull face-ish, and then some geometric body tattoos that are mostly blackout. But then you choose your background, and you have three choices. You have Nomad, which is kind of a Mad Max wastelander where you drive for a clan, and that's what I chose.
Okay.
And then you have Street Kid, where you grew up in Night City on the streets, and you're kind of a hood. And then you have Corpo. You grew up in the corporate world, and you're you're well versed in the upper class stuff.
Okay. And it's just those three.
Just those three.
Okay.
And those do not impact anything with regard to your mechanical aspect of your character, because you can put your stats wherever you want. They impact significant role-playing choices. There are dialogue choices that I have access to as a nomad that only nomads have access to. There are other dialogue choices that come up only if you have your stats at certain levels. And sometimes you can see it when they're grayed out.
Yeah.
So that you're like, oh no, I need to up my intelligence if I want to say that smart thing, or if I want to analyze this computer system.
That's really interesting.
But there was this cool one where like I came up on my buddy and he's on this bike, and I had a nomad option role play track I could take where I talked to him about vehicles, because I'm a nomad. I know about vehicles.
Interesting.
And I know about smuggling and that kind of thing. And we have a conversation, and that was a unique role playing aspect.
It's highlighted as nomad, so you see.
Yeah, there's a little symbol, a little nomad symbol next to the dialogue option, so I knew it's a nomad only option. Okay. And so it's I always choose the nomad option just because why not?
Yeah, you're RP in it.
Yeah, I'm big into the RP. So I really liked that about it. But one thing that totally surprised me was how much your phone is blowing up. Holy shit. Like, you got fixers calling you, you got people emailing you and texting you. Like, I get texts from my friends and my contacts like all the time, and you can respond back. And they're just dialogue choices where it texts back. And one of the things I learned was some of them are geographical. So, like, let's say you drive into the certain district, fixer nearby gets your geolocation, and he's like, oh, I need this job done, and you're there. Boom, I'm going to send you information. Come do this thing. And so if you're on your way to your main story quest, you can just stop off and do the side mission and then continue on your way. And it's a good idea. So I definitely I've been enjoying doing that. I don't want to give anybody any spoilers for the story, and I'm not that far in, but I'm really enjoying the vibe of the game. On a positive note, visually it's stunning.
Oh, it looks really good. Very high, like very HD. Like,
yeah, and I'm not playing it on like a super ultra mega gaming PC. I'm playing it on a PlayStation, so it looks awesome. The
PS5. We should be clear, because I've heard
true.
Negative about the PS4 as far as this game.
Yeah, my lady wife saw me almost buying it for my PC because I really wanted to play it, and she was like, "No, don't do that." Okay,
I already bought you a PS5.
Yeah, here's your Christmas present early, so I bought it on PS5 instead. So she's the best.
You ruined Christmas, you Grinch.
I ruined it for myself. And so the only downside I would say, because I don't want to give just 100% glowing review, is because that's just against my character. No. But there are a couple flaws. One of the flaws is that in comparison to games like Red Dead Redemption, where you can go and have interactions with a lot of people on the street, and there's a lot of dialogue to be had. Most of the people on the street don't really talk to you. If you walk up to them and you interact, use the interact button, they basically will say like 2 or 3 stock lines for their character type. Like if it's like a hobo or whatever, they'll be like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And that's it. Like there's no conversation. But they do have NPCs that are fully role playable. They show up on your map, so you do know who to bother with and who not to bother with. So, I mean, that's kind of a long-winded but still short review of a game. If you're into Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Red Dead, or GTA, get Cyberpunk. If you're not into those kind of games, probably a pass.
Yeah, and I just played with it for a second, and the controls felt very intuitive, like from playing those other games. Yeah, it really felt like something I just drop into and start playing. Like there's a little some nuance, like this button is different than it is in this other game that I've been playing more recently, but in general I didn't have any trouble just playing. And
since I'm coming from keyboard and mouse world, I suck really bad with the controller, so I'm just, for the first while, I'm playing it on easy mode. But I did do an experiment. You can change difficulties.
Oh yeah,
and it just takes you back to your the last story save point.
Oh cool.
So once I'm actually proficient with the controller, I'll actually kick up the difficulty. But like literally, this is the first console I've ever owned, so I just don't know how to do it. And the shooting is hard, like compared to a mouse.
Yeah.
So I'm a melee guy. Like I roll up, I sprint up and slash the hell out of people with a knife. It's fun.
Did you ever play the Cyberpunk tabletop game?
I was always a Shadowrun person.
Yeah.
And Shadowrun and Cyberpunk, playing both seems pointless. Shadowrun is Cyberpunk plus magic. But like I think I covered this at one point in the past. I sold all my Shadowrun books. And I'm planning on getting the Cyberpunk Red book, which is the revised version of the original Cyberpunk. Original Cyberpunk is called Cyberpunk 2020. We live in 2020. And so they have a revised version written by a team, but still led by the original author, Mike Pondsmith. And it's revised and it's out. You can buy the PDF, but all the physical copies are totally sold out. So
Interesting.
I don't have a copy of that yet, but I'm going to buy it when it comes back in stock. Since I don't have a group to play it with right now or whatever, I'm not in a hurry. I can wait a month, 2 months.
So that's why they really wanted, because this game kind of made it in under the wire. They wanted to drop it in 2020. Like that's the significance of the year.
Yeah,
is that was the setting of the original.
The original game was set in 2020.
Oh, cool.
And it's cool because Mike Pondsmith was an executive producer for CD Projekt Red, and it's super true to his original vision. They didn't really change much with regard to setting and role play.
That's cool. Assuming and I'm sure I played that tabletop game in like middle school or something, but like you alluded to, Shadowrun took the Cyberpunk bandwidth because it was like deeper.
You can play a troll.
Yeah, you can play a troll. Why? If you can play a troll, why not play a troll?
Yeah, that's like if David asks you to be a vampire, you do it.
Yeah. But it's the game felt very GTA in a Blade Runner type setting, and so it seems really cool.
Definitely GTA and Blade Runner is the elevator pitch. So what are you into right now?
I'm going to stretch this a little bit because it was what I was into like a week or two ago.
That's good enough.
Yeah, but it made an impression, so I wanted to get back to it. So we talked in the beginning of the show, we talked a bit about the Mandalorian, and of course, like one of the big brains behind the Mandalorian is Dave Filoni.
Yeah,
and Dave Filoni was the showrunner on Rebels, and before that, Clone Wars. And before that, he was a director on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh.
And so I was watching that. I think it's called like Disney Visionaries or something. It's a behind the scene thing on Disney Plus where they talk to the directors and stuff of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And it kept coming up kind of multiple times, when I worked on Avatar, and that's George Lucas kind of spotted my work from Avatar, and that's why he picked me to direct the Clone Wars and blah, blah, blah. And so Avatar came up a few times, and it's, Avatar came out in 2005. So it's old news.
Yeah.
But I had never watched it.
It's not a hot take.
Yeah. It's not hot at all. 15-year-old show. But it was coming up a lot, and I know a lot of people are super into it. And,
That's true.
And I texted a friend of mine, Caitlin, who is sort of an anime head, and I know she was.
The term for that is weeb.
I don't like weeb, but if I say I prefer otaku, it makes me
sound. You could say otaku.
It makes me sound like even more of a weeb than if I just said 100%. Weeb. But anyways, she's like an anime fan. And we have a taste that lines up pretty well. Like, so when she recommends something, I usually like it. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, is Avatar worth it?
Because there's a lot of content, right?
Not a ton. Like, it's not an unscalable mountain, but there's a lot of it, and it's old. And so I texted her, is Avatar worth it? And she says, it's one of the top 10 greatest of all time.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well now... because I really like Clone Wars and Rebels and Mando, and I should just get into this. And sure. It's a little bit like Clone Wars and Rebels in that it starts out as like a children's TV show.
Yeah.
And so you've got to slog through that first season.
It's funny because I watched half of the first season and I was like, this is for kids, and I never gone back.
It's tough. Yeah, that part was a slog, and I just did it little bits at a time. Like I would watch, like, what do you want to watch tonight? And nothing, we couldn't really decide anything. It's like, well, I'm going to watch a couple episodes of Avatar. And so I would just get in Avatar here and there up until the season finale of season 1, which is when the show, like, it shifts pretty drastically maturity-wise. Like, it becomes a much more emotional and heavy show.
Okay.
And then more or less from the end of season 1, I just powered through 2 and 3. And then when the whole thing was over, I watched The Legend of Korra. I watched all 4 seasons of that.
So are there only 3 seasons of Avatar?
There's only 3 seasons of Avatar.
Oh man, that's actually not bad.
Yeah.
I could do that.
No, it's easy to get through. And it's a really good, like, compelling, like, fantasy story. Like, it's very YA, but it's, like you did Harry Potter.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's very...
I got no hate for YA.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very well written, and it's very well directed. It's pretty cinematic. And then when you get into the sequel series, The Legend of Korra, which is a modern show made for Netflix... and so it's widescreen and it's paced a lot better because it's not paced as a weekly TV show. It's
meant to be binged.
It's meant to be binged, and it's the characters are older, so it's much more teen, level instead of like tween level. So Korra was really good. I actually liked The Legend of Korra probably better than I liked Avatar.
Wow.
And then I even watched the terrible live action movie, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, which is like an adaptation of the first season of Avatar by someone, how it's like sometimes you get something where someone obviously really likes something, but they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, on some level, it's extremely faithful to this source material, but the way that it deviates really detracts heavily, and a lot of the heart is removed.
Well, that tagline that they always put in his trailers, from the mind of M. Night Shyamalan, to me, that is an instant do not watch. Ever since the Grass movie.
Oh, yeah. I don't think, well, not counting this, I probably hadn't seen anything since Glass.
Okay.
Or, no, not Glass. Unbreakable.
Man, yeah, that actually wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
But I think the
And The
Grass
Sixth Sense
movie
is good.
is what that was called, The Happening. or
Yeah,
something
and
like
that's
that?
with fucking. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's a hard swear, but it's just a placeholder for while I think of Mark Wahlberg's name.
Oh yeah, that movie was terrible.
Yeah,
It was unwatchable.
well, Mark Wahlberg is a terrible actor.
I don't know. He's not okay.
Are you gonna be
I like him.
a
but
Marky Mark defender.
I like him, but I don't think he's a good actor.
What's he good in? What's a good Mark Wahlberg movie?
There's a movie with Stephen Colbert. No, it's not Colbert. It's a comedy. He plays a good dude in a comedy, a date movie, and they go out and they run into him. And anyway,
What about the Seth MacFarlane thing with the teddy bear? Is he
Yeah.
good in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mark Wahlberg is not a terrible actor, but I'm not going to sit here and defend him. So
I'll take Donnie Wahlberg over Mark Wahlberg.
will you?
Yeah.
You're a New Kids on the Block guy.
Yeah, I'm hanging tough.
You're hanging tough more than Marky Mark. God, I'm down with the Funky Bunch.
Oh man, that's awesome. So, anyways, Avatar: The Last Airbender. The showrunner Michael Dante DiMartino, and I've been trying to figure out how you pronounce this last name, Brian Konietzko, I think, and then the head writer was Aaron Ehas. And it's definitely, if you can make it through the kiddie phase of the first season, it's definitely worth watching, especially if you're like an anime fan. Like if you like this sort of shonen anime, it's the American version of that.
I do like the Fire Nation people.
Yeah, they're dope.
Pretty much
Prince
anything-
Zuko is dope.
Anything about the Fire dudes, I'm into.
Yeah. And that's the, like, just to kind of get into what makes the show so good is like how in depth these characters are. Like the character journeys that absolutely every character has across the 3 seasons and then into the sequel series, because a lot of them are still alive at that point. They really have like really good arcs. Like it's really good storytelling. And if you like all the Star Wars stuff, that Filoni has done afterwards, I think you would also be into this, because it's where he got his chops up.
Yeah, I should probably check it out because I do like all his Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what I'm into right now.
All right. Well, I guess this is time for me to do our call to action. And I'm asking you to subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher and rate us generously. A 5-star review costs you nothing but means everything to us. Additionally, if you want to go the extra mile and help us grow the audience and help us have a broader reach, please share and retweet our episode posts where we have every episode that comes out. There's also a post on the socials on every platform talking about the new episode. Just go ahead and share that post for us and help us reach all your friend group. That would be awesome.
Yeah, so that gets to my side, because I like to tell you, you can find us all across the metaverse on all social media platforms as Deep Dive the Meta. We're on Twitter, which Dave prefers, Instagram, which I like, but we're also on Pinterest,
Which everyone likes.
Which everyone likes, although I haven't updated it for a couple episodes, so I need to get on that.
Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.